What is going on, everybody? Sorry, just adjusting this a little bit. I feel like I'm a little zoomed in today, but I guess that's all right. Allow some people to enter the room before we get started today. But yeah, we're gonna just go ahead. We're continuing on with the trend this week. John is off for one more stream. Looking forward to getting him back. Getting him back next week after his travels, spending some time with some family. Until then, we have more. There's more training camp to talk through, and all of the fallout that continues to go on with just 1 week to go before the Hall of Fame game, which is the official start of preseason. So that's in 1 week. So welcome to Facemask Fantasy, this modified version of it. Again, for one more stream, 1 more week until John gets back. So I got you for however long anybody or everybody wants to go today. So as always, any and all questions are on the table. Any and all talking points are on the table. As we continue to move through this first week of training camp with football officially being back. So I know we're just kicking things off today or just getting started. But happy to talk about anything that's gone on over the past couple of days. Obviously, the Julio Jones signing being at the forefront. I know that happened on Tuesday, but that remains, I guess, the biggest transaction that has happened so far this week. The biggest thing that happened today so far that I've seen doesn't pertain particularly to any one specific player that you're drafting for your fantasy team, but that doesn't mean that they can't have implications. Down in Tampa Bay, Bucs center Ryan Jensen reportedly has suffered a knee injury, and there is fear that it is a significant injury. Undergoing tests, presumably at the moment, probably undergoing an MRI and all that good stuff. Not good stuff. It's it's concerning stuff. But ideally get a diagnosis on him soon. He's he's a pretty tough player, so the fact that he had to be carted off is a concerning sign. He had to be carted off of the field. So obviously something you never want to hear. Hopefully Ryan Jensen is okay. But that is the biggest development that I've seen today so far. That's going to have implications on the Bucs offense. He's, the center is generally considered he's kind of like the point guard of the offensive line, right? If you had to, in basketball terms, he's the captain of the offensive line. He's the one getting everybody set, reading all of the pre-snap details of the defense and shouting things out to his mates on the line. And he's a big time veteran at this point. One of the best, probably one of the better centers in the league. And, the guy that Tom Brady relies on the line, who probably he's in the most communication with. So that's a significant development down in Tampa. So hopefully he's okay. That's going to have implications for the Bucs offense. You still expect them. You expect them to operate at a high level. And what's going on, Kilo? Good to see you. Thanks for stopping in. Yeah, he was considering retirement. Comes back for one more run because Brady decides to come back, and now there's potential for significant missed time here if not his entire season. And if when a guy considering retirement potentially tears an ACL and misses the season, you got to think that might be it for him. For his sake, for the Bucs' sake, of course, you You hope that's not the case. You hope you get the best possible news out of a scenario like this, and hopefully he's able to return at some point this season, because this is a Bucs team with Super Bowl aspirations, and he's a big part of the offensive line. And that's going to have trickle-down effects for the rest of the offense. Does protection hold up as well as you hope it does on a play-by-play basis for Tampa Bay at this point? They still have strong pieces along the offensive line. Tristan Wirfs is a great right tackle. They signed Shaq Mason away from New England. He's been one of the better guards in the league throughout his tenure with the Patriots. So that was a big time free agency signing for Tampa. So they have guys to lean on, but center's a tough position. There's a lot of assignments and added responsibility that comes with that. So on a play-by-play basis, if they don't have their starting center, is the Bucs offense going to be as effective as they were, as you anticipate, as you expect? When you have Tom Brady as your quarterback, you naturally feel comfortable about being able to navigate anything, right? What's going on, Alex? But that's a significant development. That is a huge loss. Again, all I've seen from Aaron Wilson, he covers, I think it's Pro Football Network. He's pretty got his ear close to the ground as far as he covers the Houston Texans, or he's based in Houston, but he drops tidbits for every team. And he tweeted out that it sounds like it's a major injury, or there's concern it's a major injury. So I just saw Joe Banner, former GM for several teams. He tweeted out that they might call the Eagles. JC Treader is a free agent. He played for the Packers. He played for the Browns. I think he's still the current president of the NFLPA, the Players Association, even though he's not on a team right now. But I think he's still the president of the Players Association. You could call him. That would probably make a lot of sense. Savvy vet at this point, 31 years old. It's tough. Anytime in training camp, you're asking a guy to step in and he, it's the question about like the playbook as it pertains to the offensive line. I don't know if that's the concern so much as it is just understanding the assignments, different words, different verbiage, like just they mean different things on a team by team basis. So it's not a matter of just like plugging a guy in and then he's just got to be physically capable. Why is JC Treader still a free agent? That I think is a fair question to ask. Joe Banner also suggested that of the, one of the few teams that has significant offensive line depth is the Eagles. But do you really want to trade that now when every team for better or worse comes into the season with expectations, right? And the Eagles are one of those teams where, yeah, they're not one of the teams at the forefront of who you think is competing for a Super Bowl this year, but don't tell those players that. Don't tell the coaching staff that. They're thinking, why not us? We can make a run. You never know what happens. You have to operate that way as a team. Any team is going to operate that way. Who knows what happens? Maybe we string some wins together. Maybe we maybe we're a little better than people think, are giving us credit for or think we'll be. Every single team in the NFL is thinking that right now. And the Eagles are one of the few teams that probably could navigate, injury waters along the offensive line. They don't want to necessarily just trade that away. But maybe there are suggestions on Twitter right now, like Joe Dolan, he works for Fantasy Points, that maybe the Bucs make a call to the Eagles and inquire about their offensive line depth. They have Jason Kelce, who is also, like Ryan Jensen, pretty close to retirement. This is probably his final season in the NFL. I think he was thinking about retiring last year, so he's running it back one more time. But this is probably it. I mean, do the Bucks call about him? The Eagles also have Landon Dickerson. They drafted Cam Jurgens. So the depth is there, but you don't want to just necessarily trade that away. So we'll see. I would think JC Treader is maybe the first phone call that the Bucks make. But obviously, hopefully Ryan Jensen is okay. You never want to hear about major injuries anytime at all, but before the guy's season can even get started, it's brutal. Naturally, yeah. I mean, you think this would, when you hear about offensive line injuries, the natural thought process to think about the running back, right? The starting running back, and this maybe takes a toll on their outlook. So, I had Leonard Fournette listed as my RB13 going into the season. I didn't have him as a top 12 option. He's right on the cusp, as a RB13. He's the highest RB2 that I have, and I have seen many people listing him as a borderline RB1 or have to this point. Little bit of concern, but this Bucks offense still has high expectations. I wouldn't be dropping Fournette too far down my rankings, honestly, even if at all. Like maybe like Nick Chubb and Alvin Kamara, you feel a little bit better about those guys than Fournette at this point. I still would list him as a top 15 running back, and even then, I feel like I have him a little too low. So I have him at 13. Maybe I put him at like 14 or 15. I'm not dropping him significantly. And then, the question more or less is, does the line hold up on passing downs? Because the Bucks are a passing offense with Tom Brady. That's the bigger concern. On a play-by-play basis, does the Bucks offensive line hold up? With whoever the backup is, whether they bring in Treader, whether they make a trade, whether they promote somebody from within. Is the new guy able to read the defense, read the assignments, read the setup the same way that Jensen can? That's going to be that's a challenge now that the Bucks have to figure out. So we'll see what happens there. And then as it pertains to like ranking the wide receivers, I'm not dropping Mike Evans in my rankings. I still have I have high expectations for him. I've seen people on Twitter, they're dropping Russell Gage down their rankings a bit, not because of this Ryan Jensen news, but because Julio signed there. The outlook from the team perspective, the outlook on Chris Godwin has been good. So while I've been saying I don't expect Chris Godwin to be the Chris Godwin that we've grown accustomed to seeing as early as week 1, I think it's fair to expect him to round into form by mid-season, hopefully. But this is the type of injury where obviously he's not, you're not drafting the center of a team's offensive line, but it has ripple effects. It can have an impact. It trickles down. It trickles down to the rest of the offense. So, maybe you put a little bit more on Tom Brady's plate. Not that he's already the one of the top quarterbacks that you're ready to go to battle with as far as like winning any given week, any game, any given week anyway, regardless of the personnel around it, but could be a big loss. That was the big development I feel like I saw today. There were a couple other notes here and there. Corey Davis lost some weight. He feels like he's playing well. Keenan Allen said he's feeling healthy. I've seen a couple of reports out of Denver that the backfield split looks like it's going to remain what it was last year. So, Melvin Gordon continues to look like a good value. Javonte Williams is being drafted around the 2-3 turn in a lot of drafts, a lot of 10 and 12 team drafts. A lot of people are taking him like end of the second, top of the third. Might be a smarter pivot to continue to go after Melvin Gordon 7 rounds later. That's just, again, a way too early camp report. It looks like it's an even split, but obviously there's only so much you can go off of in this first week of camp. ML, what's going on? Thanks for coming in. Yeah, Ramondre is running with the first team for the Patriots, so that's something to monitor up in New England. I still am of the belief that Damian Harris is going to get all the work that he can handle, just because it's a contract year for him. I'm not sure. I'm not sure that the Patriots go away from Harris as their 1A option, because they can kind of ride him into the ground this year and then let him walk. It's a brutal business for the running backs, man. It really is. I wish there was a way for the rookie wage scale to be different for running backs, where they get a little bit more money up front with their rookie contracts, but I'm not the commissioner or the president of the Players Association. That's JC Treader, who might be getting a phone call from Tampa Bay somewhat shortly. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of the name of the game with the running backs. You churn them up. Yeah, you use them up and you spit them out. It's a nasty business for running backs. It's a brutal landscape for the running back position. But I think that's what's going to happen with Damian Harris this year. He's going to get his 250 carries, maybe more, 250, 275. Ramondre Stevenson is I would say is kind of like the Patriots' A.J. Dillon, where he's the backup, but he's not really a backup. He's, you only technically start one running back, but Ramondre is a pseudo starter for that team. I can see that happening. I don't think he gets more work than Damian Harris, though, this year. I think Harris gets all the work he can handle this year. They let him walk, and then Ramondre takes on the full-time role as the 1A in 2023. But it is still noteworthy that he has been running with the first team offense. This could be, you always have to, with New England, especially their backfield, you always have to consider that they're throwing smoke screens at people. They're giving they're giving you the fluff headlines during the offseason. It's hard to get a read on the Patriots backfield. It always has been with Bill Belichick as the coach. And unfortunately, from what I've read, I would love to see like some positive news on this, but James White apparently is still walking with like a limp. The hip injury that he suffered last year is kind of serious. I think he's on the PUP list. I'm pretty sure James White is on the PUP list. It sounds like, I feel like the vibes have not been optimistic on James White, which sucks. He's always been a damn good player, like just a great player in his role as a pass catching guy. But if he's not able to go, then Ramondre is going to get extra work, because Damian Harris is not known for his pass catching prowess. So Ramondre might see a little extra work. Maybe Pierre Strong mixes in a little bit more than we expect. But again, under Belichick, when they draft a running back and it's a rookie running back, they don't get a lot of run. Like Damian Harris was a 4th round pick. He barely saw the field his rookie year. Did he have some injury issues his rookie season? Either way, I mean, Ramondre feels like the first rookie in a while who got a significant look for the Patriots. So maybe Pierre Strong soaks up some snaps and work that James White would have otherwise received. But something to monitor. I think either one of those guys, either Damian Harris or Ramondre Stevenson, I think they're both fine. I think they're both viable for you to draft. I'm okay with either one of them. Their ADPs are pretty close. So when your ADPs are close like that, I guess it's like, take the guy who you think is going to start. And I think that is going to be Harris. But let's say in your draft, Harris goes in the 8th round. Maybe Ramondre falls 15, 18, 20 spots after Harris. That's fine too. I don't have an issue with taking either one of those guys. I think this Patriots offense, the vibes seem to be, on the whole, outside of James White, they seem to be positive. Mac Jones is drawing praise so far for what appears to be the work he put in this offseason. He's apparently bulked up. The mechanics are supposedly looking good. The footwork is supposedly looking good. So this offense should be a little bit better this year. You would think maybe they have a few more scoring opportunities. That bodes well for both Harris and Ramondre. The pass catchers up in New England are interesting, but obviously not top heavy. Devontae Parker, Jacoby Myers, Kendrick Bourne. Nelson Aguilar, Hunter Henry, Jonnu Smith. Like, it's a deep collection of guys. Not any one of those guys is like top of their position in the league, but it's a good collection of talent. But scoring opportunities, maybe a few more opportunities for the running backs. So yeah, it's a good one to monitor. It's a good one to pay attention to. Crumply Heads, what's going on? Thanks for coming in. Appreciate it. And Rojo, good to see you. Man, as far as Marlon Mack, I'm telling you, he's still listed as the starter down there in Houston. How does this affect Marlon Mack? I'll tell you what, Marlon Mack is worth drafting this year. That's my take on that. Because you can get him in that. Well, in best ball, you go 18 rounds. In 10 and 12 team redraft leagues, you're probably going 16 rounds. Marlon Mack could pass as a 16th round pick. I think he's going to end up on fantasy rosters everywhere this year at some point. I think they're going to use him as the starter. I think Rex Burkhead mixes in. I'm intrigued by Dameon Pierce, but I think he might be third on the depth chart. If Marlon Mack is healthy, which by all accounts he is, I think he's going to be the starter this year. What was the contract? They didn't give him a ton of money, but he's getting paid more than Dameon Pierce. Let's put it that way. In his spot track. Nobody knows how to actually pronounce that. So Max signed one year, $2 million. Not a ton of money. Only $250,000 was guaranteed. Okay, so you're not talking about a whole lot of money at all. What's his cap hit? Can't be that high. Cap hit is 1.7 mil. If they, so I gotta think they used him this year, like as the starter. I have to think that. I gotta think that. I don't know what to make of Dameon Pierce. He was drafted third round pick, fourth round pick. He was a fourth round pick. I mean, his cap hit this year is just under $1 million, about 900,000. Max cap hit this year is 1.7. I know you can't necessarily always follow the money, but right now Mac is listed as the starter. And Rex Burkhead is still there, and Burkhead is. We just got done talking about the Patriots and James White and his role. That's probably the role that Burkhead fills. He can be a decent pass catching running back. And he's never carried a full load. So, like, 32-year-old Rex Burkhead is not the same as a 32-year-old bell cow who is, unfortunately, probably used up by the time he's 32 years old. It's not like Mark Ingram. I guess that's like I'm trying to think of, like, veteran running backs who have carried. I mean, even Ingram has not carried, like, full bell cow workloads over the course of his career. And even he's, on his last legs. I don't think the same can be said about a guy like Burkhead. He's going to still mix in. I don't know about Dameon Pierce I don't know. I don't necessarily know that Dameon Pierce is a guy that I'm going to have a ton of shares of this year. Interesting prospect, interesting player, fourth round draft capital. And that's not bad for, when you consider that it's a running back, but he's listed third on the depth chart, and the depth chart will, of course, update as we get closer to the start of the preseason, which officially kicks off next week with the Hall of Fame game a week from today. So that's exciting. But yeah, I mean, this could be kind of a weird committee. And the fact that Mac is listed as the starter and Dameon Pierce's ADP is higher than Mac's makes me want Mac even more. I want Mac in that backfield. I don't want Dameon Pierce, a fourth round rookie who's currently listed third on the depth chart in Houston, is the guy with the highest ADP in that backfield. When that happens, I don't want that guy. When that happens, I don't want that guy. I want the guy when it's an unknown like committee or when it's an unknown situation, give me the guy with the cheapest ADP. And that's Mac. That's Mac. So yeah. And bro, you said you don't know what to do about Jacobs. We can talk about the Raiders backfield as well. There's a couple backfields to keep an eye on this offseason. Or this offseason. We're now basically in preseason. We can talk about Jacobs. Brian, hello. Who is this? This is my name's Nick. This is Facemask Fantasy. I usually have a co-host. He's off this week. So it's a bit of a bootleg setup, but thanks for coming in. Johnny, good to see you. We'll talk about Fournette. There's nothing wrong with Fournette. We were just talking earlier about how it appears that the Bucs center Ryan Jensen suffered a probably serious knee injury, or that's what it's looking like. So there's just ripple effects that come from the offense. So just that's the takeaway. So maybe Fournette slides down a spot or two if you in your own personal rankings. I'm not dropping him that far down. Could be a significant loss, but I mean, a Tom Brady-led offense, I'm not taking Fournette out of my top 15. The whole offensive line would have to get hurt, and obviously I don't want that to happen. I'm not hoping that. I don't even want to put that out into the universe, but like something terrible would have to happen for me to be completely off Fournette. But that was what that conversation was about. But as for Jacobs, Rojo, so Charles Robinson, does he still work for Yahoo? Charles Robinson was put out a thread on Twitter yesterday. Yeah, he is still working for Yahoo. Or no, it was last week after after the first practice for the Raiders. But he wrote, this is a tweet from Charles Robinson. I quote, "Health permitting, running back is going to be exactly what you'd think. It will end up being a situational committee, and I wouldn't be surprised to see the position get entirely revamped next offseason. If you hate how the Patriots use running backs, look away. It will be similar." That's a fair unquote. That's a fair speculation because obviously now Josh McDaniels is the head coach, comes from the Belichick coaching tree. We know that the Patriots backfield is notoriously hard to predict year in and year out. So that could be the case with the Raiders this year. The flip side to that, though, is Josh Jacobs, who has first-round draft capital and has been, at best, he's been a low-end RB1. At worst, he's been a middling RB2, which is not bad. Now his ADP is falling into like the 8th round. For Dynasty, obviously, he feels like a dicey acquisition, but for redraft, I'll take Josh Jacobs in the 8th round, especially if this report continues to drop his ADP. If this suggestion, the Raiders are going to, Kenyon Drake is going to have a role. Zamir White, their 4th round pick is going to mix in. They signed Brandon Bolden, even though he's a special teamer. It's worth calling out his name. If that's the concern and Jacobs is available in the 8th round and this report pushes his ADP down even farther, go get Josh Jacobs. We've seen him be like, or have a floor of like RB 15, 16, 17. There's value there. Not every guy is going to be Christian McCaffrey or Jonathan Taylor. Sometimes like you just need like a boring RB2 to help chip in 12 to 15 points a week. Jacobs can do that. And if his ADP is going to fall because there's an expectation that the Raiders backfield is going to operate the way the Patriots have in the past, Josh Jacobs has first-round draft capital. I know this is a brand new regime. It's a brand new coaching staff. This is a team that is much different than the one than what Josh Jacobs stepped into as a first-round draft pick as a rookie. But he's still got that first-round draft capital, and he has still provided an RB2 floor for his first 3 seasons in the league. I'm taking Josh Jacobs in the 8th round. And I'm not scared of that. I'm not scared of that. And I'll go even a step farther. And we can talk about Zamir White as well. He's been missing practice. I think it's been with a knee injury, which is obviously not the best sign, not the best news. There's a sleeper report just now that Brandon Ayuk could be the biggest beneficiary of Trey Lance being inserted in the starting lineup, which, by the way, apparently Trey Lance did not have a good day at practice today. Whatever. Like, not worried about that. With Zamir White, he's missed, I think, 3 or 4 days in a row at this point. And I think it's a knee injury. Yesterday, missed 3 consecutive practices. I didn't see if he practiced today. So if he didn't, then we're talking about 4 straight days of not practicing. So at this point, it would be hard to envision Zamir White. If he plays in the Hall of Fame game, that's a great sign at this point, because he's missed several days in a row of practice. If Zamir White plays in the Hall of Fame game a week from tonight, then we're fine. We're in good shape. We'll be all right. But this opens the door to me, I'm smashing Kenyon Drake with my last pick. And I'll get to Ayuk in a second because I have thoughts on him, and I think you guys will, based on objective, what's going on. Good to see you. Based on what you guys are, I think you guys will like what I have to say about Brandon Ayuk. But don't forget about, for the Raiders backfield, just to wrap a bow on this, don't forget about Kenyon Drake. I think, did Kenyon Drake did he average like a touchdown a game when he was in Arizona? I know it's a different situation now in Vegas, but Kenyon Drake's no slouch, and you can get him with your last pick. You're talking about 0 risk for running back depth, and he probably operates, especially if Zamir White is banged up and hobbled. Kenyon Drake's going to operate as like their third down back, their pass catching back. We always have interest in that role. I don't care who the team is. We always have interest in knowing who's the third down guy, who's the third down running back, who's the guy that has the potential to catch passes. Don't forget about Kenyon Drake. He's cleared. He was cleared before training camp opened. He's reportedly healthy after missing the second half of the season last year. With Zamir White battling injuries, I'm always, the rookie hype always pushes rookie ADPs up. Maybe like these day 2, day 3 running backs a little bit more. Rookie hype just naturally pushes their ADP up. Don't forget about the veteran who has been there and has proven to be productive throughout his career. Don't forget about Kenyon. So I'm fine with Josh Jacobs in the 8th round, and I'm fine with Kenyon Drake as your last pick in your draft. Zamir White, the missed practice is a little concerning. So right now, as of today, I'm kind of holding off for now on Zamir White. It's not like a death sentence if he doesn't play in the Hall of Fame game. Obviously, the Hall of Fame game is the most, just kind of throw it in the trash preseason game of the preseason. I can't imagine more than a couple starters on both sides play between the Raiders and Jacksonville. Is it Jacksonville? Jacksonville's the other team in the Hall of Fame game. Right? I think I'm right on that. If Zamir White can get some snaps in the Hall of Fame game, great. If not, it's not the end of the world. But after all this missed practice, we want to see some positive news before I go back to the well with Zamir White. But yeah, I think he's battling knee injuries, and obviously that's not something you want to hear. So he's missing out on an opportunity to make an impact right now, unfortunately. Still plenty of time. There's still time in the preseason. We're still 40 days out from the start of the regular season itself. So he's got time here, but it's not the start that you would want. Anyway, I'm getting spammed right now. Let's take care of that real quick. I'm not worried about that. And then Johnny, just to wrap up the Fournette thought again, if you missed it off the top of the show, just the one big tidbit from today, it sounds like Bucks center Ryan Jensen suffered a major knee injury. We're hoping for a best case scenario here. We're hoping for good news. So just naturally, it's like, what's the ripple effects of that for the Bucs offense? I'm not fading anybody. Maybe Fournette drops like a spot or two. I had him as my RB13. I'm not like, I'm not significantly higher. I'm not significantly dropping him, but something to consider. Yeah, I know. I got spammed with something called Naked HD. So there you guys go. There's that. Anyway, whatever. As for Ayuk, so apparently Trey Lance didn't have a great day in practice. He only completed half of his throws. Apparently one of them, he threw it directly at the DB for an interception. So obviously that's not anything you ever want to hear. But he had a nice throw to Brandon Ayuk deep today. And there was an alert on Sleeper that Brandon Ayuk could be the biggest beneficiary of Trey Lance being inserted into the lineup. I like Ayuk at his ADP this year. It's pretty simple. Ayuk had a solid rookie season. Right? He had a real good rookie season. And through no fault of his own, it was at a time for the 49ers when both Deebo Samuel and George Kittle were out of the lineup. Right? So it was consolidated targets, consolidated work in Brandon Ayuk's favor. He put up some good numbers. Ended up seeing his redraft 2021 ADP climb all the way up into the 4th round, which was a little ambitious because, again, we knew Deebo Samuel was coming back healthy. George Kittle was coming back healthy. So drafting Brandon Ayuk last year in the 4th round was reactionary based off of a favorable circumstance for him, his rookie season. It was unfair for him to expect similar results. What we didn't see coming, what was impossible to see coming, was he ended up in Kyle Shanahan's doghouse a couple of times last year. I think he was he pulled off the field week 1. Didn't see a ton of playing time. Trent Sherfield was in the lineup ahead of him for numerous games. And everybody was wondering what the hell's going on with Brandon Ayuk. Like, he's learning how to. There was a report early in the season from, I think it was Matt Maiocco. He's one of the 49ers beat reporters, that Ayuk was still learning how to be a pro. So, maybe, I don't know if I never got context on that. I don't know if that means he was like paying attention to meetings, or maybe he was missing minor details. And when that's all it takes in the NFL to kind of fall down the ladder, right? Fall down the depth chart a little bit. And so expectations were not met. However, if you look at his numbers, oh, God damn, I thought I hid this freaking user. Okay. Oh, it was slightly different. It was a slightly different one. All right. Sorry, guys. I'm getting bombed with spam today. I will try to be on top of that as I possibly can. I'll block as many of these bots as I possibly can. But haven't seen this for a little while. So as it pertains to Ayuk, expectations weren't met last year with the 4th round ADP. But if you look at his numbers, they were pretty much the same. They were very similar across year 1 and year 2. And now his ADP has settled back down to that, that like 7th, 8th round range. So even after a bad season by the expectations of fantasy drafters, and I'm sure Brandon Ayuk himself hoped to have a better season than he actually did, his numbers were very similar to what he put up in his rookie year. Now you can have him 4 rounds cheaper in 2022. Which is much more appropriate when you factor in a healthy Deebo and a healthy Kittle. Brandon Ayuk now is a good investment. It wasn't smart to draft him last year in the 4th round. It's smart now to draft him in the 8th. And obviously there are there are question marks. What is this 49ers passing offense going to look like? How effective will it be? How efficient will it be? Is Trey Lance ready? The 49ers clearly think he is. They've moved on from Jimmy Garoppolo to Trey Lance. Can he throw for 3,500 passing yards? I won't even say 4,000. I'm not sure if that's unrealistic or not, but with the way I think we expect this 49ers offense to look, might be a little unrealistic. Can Trey Lance, I'll just say, can he eclipse 3,000 passing yards? I would certainly hope so over the course of 17 games, 18 weeks. But if he can get to 3,500 passing yards, Brandon Ayuk's got the cheapest ADP of the starters in San Francisco. So, yeah, he should be fine this year. I like Brandon Ayuk at his ADP. I think he should, in theory, I mean, this, he's entering his third season. So naturally, you expect some additional progression. He should put up the best numbers of his career, even with a healthy Debo, even with a healthy Kittle, in an offense that might not throw the ball as much as they did with Jimmy G. And that's the other thing. It's not like Garoppolo is exactly a world beater at the quarterback position. If he was, they wouldn't have drafted Trey Lance. If Jimmy G was an upper echelon quarterback in the league, he'd still be the quarterback of the 49ers. They wouldn't have spent crazy draft capital to move up for the opportunity to take Trey Lance. So, there's the positive glass half full flip side to this as it pertains to the 49ers pass catchers. How much of a drop off, if any, will there be? There might be none. Maybe Trey Lance is just that dude. And I do think Trey Lance is one of the best, obviously super flex, but one quarterback investments for this year. I have him as my QB7. His ADP has settled in. I think I think he's also going. Is it eighth, ninth round for Trey Lance? I'm just checking on Underdog Fantasy right now, just to make sure I'm saying this correctly. I keep forgetting what his ADP is. 78. So yeah, so around 80. So okay, yeah. I mean that's around the 7-8 turn. So drafters are starting to warm up to Trey Lance, and obviously you get even more of a boost when it's, when the team full on commits to him, when there was still, I don't think there was a question this offseason that they were going to move on from Jimmy G and go to Trey Lance, but the possibility existed as long as Jimmy G was on the team. Now they've moved on. Trey Lance is the guy. His ADP is naturally going to go up. I'm still fine with taking I'll take Trey Lance at 78. I'm fine with that. I think he's this year's Jalen Hurts. Somebody else mentioned that. I don't know if that was Tuesday or yesterday during the members only stream, but Trey Lance has a good chance to be this year's Jalen Hurts, the 2021 version of Jalen Hurts. 800 rushing yard, 7-8 touchdown upside on the ground. Hurts had 10. I don't know if I'll ever predict 10 rushing scores for a quarterback for anyone ever, even Lamar, just because touchdowns are so random. But 800 yards on the ground, 7 or 8 rushing scores on top of whatever he does throwing the ball. I don't care when I hear about Trey Lance has a bad practice the first week of training camp. Whatever. He'll be fine. He'll be all right. Bro, appreciate it as always. I know you're always stunting for the channel, asking for people to pump it up a little bit with likes. Much appreciated, man. Hopefully no more weird sex bots enter the chat. I will block them if they do. Pretty weird. I feel like I haven't seen those for a while. We had a good stretch without those, but they reared their ugly head today. Not to worry. That's what the block button is for. Johnny, do I think Kittle and Trey for Pitts is worth it? In Superflex, man, I'm so bullish on Kyle Pitts. If it's one quarterback, yes. If it's super flex, there's a part of me that wants to say yes, but I don't know if that would be smart, to be completely honest. Um, because it's super flex, Trey Lance is probably probably just as important, like probably more important of a long term asset. The argument in Pitts' favor is the talent pool at the tight end position is significantly thinner, right? Um, and I mean, he is the dynasty tight end one. Kittle's probably more the, he's the dynasty tight end 5 at this point. And firmly 5, despite the fact that he's, 28 going on 29. Tight ends have a slightly longer window of far as production. Like, they can go into their 30s. I know Kittle's dealt with some injury issues, so maybe that shortens his leash a little bit, as far, or his longevity a little bit. But Kittle's still I would still say Kittle's a top 5 tight end for dynasty purposes. But if you can get Kyle Pitts, I am a big proponent of doing that. If it's super flex, it's a tougher pill to swallow. Tougher pill to swallow. And it's a stack too, so that's always enticing to hang on to. Could you see if you could get a second round pick out of it? If it's one quarterback, Johnny, I would say do it. If it's super flex, it's a little tougher. But I love Kyle Pitts. If you can acquire Kyle Pitts in Dynasty, it is something that I will advocate for 9 times out of 10. Scott, I appreciate it. What if we're just a normal? Yeah, I mean, if you guys are regular sex bots, then I fully support your endeavors. You do what you got to do. Earn that bread. Yeah. So Johnny, I guess to wrap up my thought process there, if it is super flex, could you see if you could get like a second round pick out of it? If you can, then yeah, I would be comfortable doing it, just to get a little extra something out of the deal. But let me know. The Sky Moore news has been positive over the past couple of days. Juju Smith-Schuster is on the record saying he thinks that that Sky's going to help them this year. He's going to help the offense a lot this year. And it's a honestly wide open opportunity as to who's going to step up at wide receiver for the Chiefs. Juju Smith-Schuster is a very intriguing guy. He's a very intriguing name and a guy that I was very interested in, like even in the 5th round of drafts earlier in the offseason. But the great, I'll always sing the praises of Graham Barfield, who works for Fantasy Points. The great Graham Barfield. This was maybe a month ago or so, but basically suggested like Juju's efficiency has gone down every single season in one way, shape, or form. And so, it's a little harder now. Now I'm like not as interested in him in the 5th round. If it's like, if Graham says something, it's like, I listen. It's like, oh, okay, that's good to know. So with Juju in the 5th round, it's not awful draft capital. You're not breaking the bank necessarily for a guy who could be the team's favorite to be the team or to be the favorite to be the team's wide receiver one. Obviously, the number one pass catching option is and will remain Travis Kelce, but the team's wide receiver one could be Juju. Maybe it's Sky Moore. Marquez Valdes-Scantling is obviously is the other guy in that offense. I mean, he had ample opportunities to break out with Aaron Rodgers, and Aaron Rodgers had sung his praises multiple off seasons, multiple preseasons. Aaron Rodgers was like, Marquez Valdes-Scantling is great. He just needs to, put it all together. I think he needs to realize how good he is. I think that was or something he said something to that effect. Maybe not last year, but a couple of years ago. Like, I don't think Marquez Valdes-Scantling realizes how good he is, something like that. And he went on to have like 400 receiving yards. I don't know how much better MVS gets just because he moves from Aaron Rodgers to Patrick Mahomes. Like, Rodgers had Devontae Adams. Mahomes has Travis Kelce. I don't know about Marquez. We'll see. Like, people, I know Patrick Mahomes throws one of the best deep balls in the NFL. Aaron Rodgers does too. So, like, what's MVS's excuse? So that leaves us with Sky Moore, who apparently is looking excellent in camp. I hadn't previously been touching Sky Moore in best ball just because it has been such this offseason, it just felt like a hodgepodge situation for the Chiefs at wide receiver. But he's got an ADP pretty much right at 100 on the nose. One spot ahead of Tyler Lockett. Couple spots below Treylon Burks. Couple spots below Chris Olave. And then his teammate Marquez Valdes-Scantling is going 9 or 10 spots later. So actually, Sky Moore has the cheapest ADP of the Chiefs receivers who we expect to operate in 3 receiver sets. Juju's going in the 5th round. MVS's ADP is around 91, 92. Sky Moore's is about 100. And when you got an unsettled situation or an unknown situation, because this is the first year in the offense with all 3 of those guys, take the dude with the lowest ADP. Take a guy who's got a little bit more of an established role in the 5th round where we can definitively hang our hat. Like I'm thinking in the 5th round, like the guy who I want every single time is DK Metcalf. He's going in the 5th round because there was a stretch last year where his numbers suffered when Russell Wilson returned way too early from an injury. But even before then, DK was balling out, and he was balling out with Geno Smith. Now everybody's concerned about the bad quarterback situation up in Seattle, and DK has fallen to the 5th round. If it's DK Metcalf with a bad quarterback or Juju Smith-Schuster in an unsettled situation, even though it's Patrick Mahomes, I'm taking DK. So Sky Moore, who could be had, 40 picks after Juju? That's a roll of the dice. It's like, yeah, I'll do that. I'll take that. I'm not going to say, I should have been more in on Sky Moore than I have been, just because that's a silly hindsight question. And I'll be brutally honest. I hadn't been in on him, but I hadn't really been over the past couple of months that I hadn't been in on any of the Chiefs receivers just because it's a complete unknown situation. But in those scenarios where it's like Juju's new to the team, MVS is new to the team, Sky Moore, of course, is new to the team because he just got drafted. Take the dude with the cheapest ADP. And that's Sky. That's Sky. Oh, I forgot about Mecole Hardman. Yeah, I'm not. I can't bring myself to draft Mecole. I know Tyreek Hill is gone. I can't bring myself to draft Mecole. The guy I want, is Kelce. Like, I want Kelce at the end of the 1st round. Lock him in as the tight end 1 once again. Helping out a ton of people with that. Draft Travis Kelce. Duh. Um, but I would take him as soon as like the 10th overall, 9th, 10th overall, as long as it's not standard scoring. I'll go back. The tight end depth is better this year than it has been for the past couple of years, but that doesn't mean I'm afraid to go back to the well with Kelsey once again. Got a nice little pay raise for this year. The Chiefs worked around with his contract. I think gave him an extra $3 million, so well deserved. Already one of the best to ever do it. He's going to continue to pile on to what I assume is Hall of Fame production for Travis Kelce at this point. I think it's fair to say he's well on his way to that. Yeah, I mean, technically Mecole has the cheapest ADP. Not technically, he does. Mecole has the cheapest ADP, but I'm sorry, Mecole. I can't get on board. They let Demarcus Robinson and Byron Pringle walk in free agency. They trade Tyreek Hill, and they bring in 3 new guys who could presumably all operate over Mecole Hardman. Yeah. Mecole is... This is not happening, but Mecole is like a 14th round best ball pick for me, maybe 2% of the time. Sorry, Mecole. There's just not enough there to go off of. But yeah, grab Sky Moore, 100 picks into the draft. You know who was going 100 picks into the draft last year? Now, I'm comparing some apples to oranges a little bit on this, but the guy who was drafting right around with an ADP of about 100 last year was Jalen Waddle. Now, Jalen Waddle was like the sixth overall pick in the draft. Sky Moore was a second-round pick. So you're talking about significantly different draft capital, but you're talking about Tua as your quarterback versus Patrick Mahomes. Something to think about. And Johnny, you're getting another dynasty trade. If you're giving Elijah Moore and one of either Alberto and Mike Gosiki, you're receiving a first-round pick and George Kittle. Sure. I like Elijah Moore. I think he's going to be really good. Maybe he's not like a superstar, but I think Elijah Moore is going to be pretty damn good. He had stretches where he was it was like a 2 or 3 game stretch, but he performed like a high-end wide receiver 1 last year. And then COVID, I think he got COVID, and that kind of wrecked the second half of his season. The Jets kind of limped to the finish line last year. We hope COVID is not an issue this year the way it has been the past 2 years. So hopefully Elijah Moore, hopefully everybody, avoids a stint on the IR because of COVID, and it doesn't like derail your season because you're getting sick or whatever. So Elijah Moore was on a heater before that happened. I think he's going to be damn good, but Kittle's a top 5 player at the position. He's going to be 29, but again, I would think Kittle's got 3 or 4 more years. Tight ends got a little bit more longevity to their careers, generally speaking. And then you're getting a 2023 first-round pick. It's got to be one of the most highly touted draft classes in recent memory. Everyone's excited about the 2023 class. It depends, I guess, Johnny, on where you think that pick lands. If you think it's going to be a late first-round pick, then it's like maybe I got a little bit of pause. But if you're looking at the team that you're doing business with, and maybe the team is like kind of, we got breaking news here for a second. Hang on. If you think the pick has a chance of being maybe like middle of the round, go ahead and do that. Breaking news, according to this is a sleeper report. According to Schultz report on Twitter, I'm actually not sure who that is. The Seahawks and wide receiver DK Metcalf are finalizing a 3-year extension. He is staying in Seattle. I think he was he holding out? I believe DK was holding out, and now he gets his long-term extension. Schultz report. Who is Jordan Schultz? He works for. Does he work for ESPN? I think he works for ESPN. DK Metcalf is signed a 3-year extension Already has an all-pro selection, at age 24. 72 million, 58.2 in total guarantees. Good for DK. Good for DK. So there you go. There's a big piece of news for today. DK Metcalf, 3 years, $72 million. Again, this is according to Jordan Schultz. 58.2 million in total guarantees. Seahawks superstar will not be a free agent again until he is 27 years old. He could theoretically sign another huge contract at that time. But DK gets his money. And I do think he was holding out. So he returns to the field. He's got pretty much now all of training camp to, work himself into whatever he needs to do. I'm sure we know what DK looks like, right? He's got to be one of the most yoked players I've ever seen at any position. Can't imagine it's going to require much time, if any at all, for DK to get himself right back into playing shape after he was holding out. This distraction is officially behind him. I am all in on DK at his ADP. I think the 5th round, even despite the bad quarterback situation, is way too low for a player of DK's caliber. Again, go back and, people have a recency bias when it comes to anybody, but like DK's numbers went in the tank when Russ came back too early from the finger injury last year. DK's numbers weren't bad because DK was bad. DK's numbers were bad because Russ couldn't throw the ball for the first couple games. He tried to tough it out, salvage the Seahawks season. It was too little too late. Russ coming back early did not help. It didn't hurt because the team was losing anyway, but it didn't help the production of DK Metcalf or Tyler Lockett. But before Russ came back, even with Geno Smith in at quarterback, DK was balling out. DK was putting up big numbers. What was he? Hang on. I can read these off. Through the first 7 or 8 weeks of the season, in half PPR, 14 fantasy points, 8.3 fantasy points, Matt. But look at this, 19.7, 14.5, 24. I think he had 5 for 98 and 2 scores. Not a great game week 6, 8.8, but then 16, 19. And then they had their bye week, and that's when Russ tried to come back, and he had 3 straight games where he had 6 straight games where he was under 10 half PPR points. Had an okay game week 16 against Chicago, and then 17 he exploded for 6 catches, 100 yards, 6 catches, 60 yards. Excuse me, I missed a 0 there. I was looking at the yards per catch and missed a 0. 6 catches, 63 yards, 3 touchdowns for basically 28 fantasy points. DK balled out last year before Russ came back too soon from the finger injury. Even with those games with Geno Smith, he was fine. 5 for 96 and a score. 6 for 43 and 2 touchdowns. DK is going to be fine this year. Draft him in the 5th round. No distractions anymore. He got his money. He got paid. Tons of money in guarantees. Good for DK. He earned it. And then some. Go get yourself some DK Metcalf, boys and girls. Anyway, that was something I just wanted to talk about. I saw breaking news, and I was like, I got to shut things. When you see breaking news, you got to shut it all down. So good for DK getting his money. Scott, appreciate the kind words, man. Always happy to talk shop with everybody. Tuesdays and Thursdays, we are always here, or at least one of us is. Again, John is out of town this week visiting family. He will be back next week. Looking forward to getting him back because the preseason is ramping up. We got the Hall of Fame game a week from tonight. So it'll be good to have him back in the chair manning our streaming software. And I don't do my little bootleg setup here and kind of short you guys. with just doing it straight off of the YouTube studio. But it still works, right? We can still have a conversation here, of course. But yeah, appreciate the kind words, Scott. Always happy to have people in here talking shop. With more, well, yeah, there's more ways than one. You hope he's not Tyreek. Well, off the field anyway, but on the field, Tyreek is one of one with the elite level speed that he brings to the table, but I think they're envisioning Sky Moore having a very similar role, or they're hoping to utilize him in a very similar way. And again, with an ADP around 100, that's no risk. You're drafting a wide receiver 4 or 5, because most people are drafting, they're, especially in leagues where you start 3 receivers, you're attacking wide receiver earlier and earlier this year than you have in years past. You're going to be drafting Sky Moore as a wide receiver 5 by the time you get to pick 100. No risk. No risk. And then as far as Hardman, if he's successful this year, it's probably going to be for somebody else's team. But yeah. So let's see. Just getting through the chat. Yeah, best ball. Obviously, the Chiefs skill, or guys like Sky Moore are very enticing. Redraft, I don't know. There might be a little bit more inconsistency concerns. Maybe that's where you draft in redraft. Maybe that's where you take like a safe running back. I'm thinking like a Melvin Gordon type, something like that. And yeah, with DK, okay, so he was holding out. Thanks, Scott. I thought he was. I feel like I never saw an actual headline that he was holding out, but I don't know. I feel like it's somewhere along the lines. It was just like, yeah, he's waiting for more money. So he gets it. DK gets his cash. I imagine he practices tomorrow. The Seahawks probably already practiced today. I mean, they're on the West Coast. Maybe they had an afternoon practice. I don't know all the teams' practice schedules, but DK will surely be on the field for Seattle tomorrow. Start building some rapport with what sounds like, according to Greg Bell. Greg Bell's one of the Seahawks beat reporters. It sounds like Geno Smith is the one that has the inside track to be the starter over Drew Lock. I think Drew Lock got first team reps for the first time today, and I'm sure they'll give him an opportunity to showcase. But according to Greg Bell, Geno Smith has the inside track to start. Again, that'd be fine for DK. DK had productive weeks when Geno Smith was inserted as the starter last year. So we're not concerned. We're not concerned about DK. Draft him in the 5th round every opportunity you get. William Sampson, what's going on? Thanks for coming in. Thoughts on Allen Lazard? I think his ADP is around 80 now. And obviously, ADPs are going to fluctuate a little bit between whether you do best ball or whether you do, whether you're talking about redraft or maybe you're talking dynasty. Regardless, Aaron Rodgers was singing his praises today. He was talking up Allen Lazard. He's got the most continuity in the offense and with Aaron Rodgers, and the most longevity. I mean, the guys who are stepping in otherwise are rookies. I mean, Randall Cobb is there. But Randall Cobb is older, and I love Randall Cobb, but how much more does he have in the tank? And he's been battling injuries the past couple of seasons. Allen Lazard figures, I would think, to be the Packers' X receiver this year. And maybe he's not on the level of, the great receivers that the Packers have recently deployed. Maybe Allen Lazard isn't as talented as Devontae Adams or Jordy Nelson or Greg Jennings. Just keep going back and back. But he's got the opportunity of a lifetime now, right? I mean, Christian Watson is on the PUP list. Sammy Watkins is also, I think, on the PUP list, or he's at least not practicing. And By all accounts, it looks like he might be a cut candidate. On a team with as thin of a pass catching group as the Packers, Sammy Watkins might not be able to make the team. Now, apparently, Romeo Dubs is apparently showing out. Apparently, he's looking really good. But Lazard is and we're again, you can only put so much stock into any headline that we get in training camp, right? We've seen dudes light training camp up before all the time, and then it's like they fizzle out when the actual season comes around. Not that not that I don't think Romeo can't make an impact, because there's a wide open opportunity for the Packers this year. But Lazard is the veteran with the best chance of being the team's ex-receiver. I would think he doesn't come off the field. He had 8 touchdowns last year. Did he have a career high in catches, Lazard? I guess what I was getting to is it's not a significant number, but again, the opportunity has never been better. Let me see. 40 catches last year, which I do think was a career high, 513 yards. I knew about the 8 touchdowns. I mean, let's say if he can replicate the 8 touchdowns, maybe he ups his catches by 25, 30. Is that being conservative? I don't even know. Let's say, can Alan Lazard get to 70 catches, which would maybe put him around, say, 800, 900 yards and 8 touchdowns? Especially if you start 3 receivers in your redraft league, that's an every week starter. That's a guy who's in your lineup every single week. Ah, man, for fuck's sake with these freaking, I'm sorry, guys. I don't know why I don't know why I'm getting like crushed with these with these spam. I'm blocking all of them, but they're coming out of the woodwork. They're like cockroaches. Sorry about that. Anyway, about Alan Lazard, I think he's going to have a really strong season. If he can up his catches by at least 20, say he gets like in that 60-65 catch range, and maybe that's his floor, because Devontae Adams leaves behind a 150 target floor. It's got to be divvied up somehow. If Lazard can get to 60-65 catches, 800 yards, 800 to 900 yards, maybe 8 touchdowns, that dude's in your lineup every single week. And he's got as good of a chance as anybody in that Packers, as far as the Packers receivers, to do that. I'm a little worried about Christian Watson. He had been billed as kind of like a project. He had been billed as kind of like a project when the Packers drafted him. Now he's on the PUP list. Like, he's missing ample opportunity to make an impact, to build a rapport with Rodgers. I mean, Lazard's the vet. Randall Cobb is the other vet, but Randall Cobb is 32, 33 years old at this point, and his body has gone through, a slew of injuries. You can't possibly. Randall Cobb is 31. He'll be 32 in a few weeks. August 22nd, Randall Cobb turns 32. But I mean, he's older now, and he's battled injuries. This is Lazard's, like, the time is now. So yeah, 60. 808. That's a high-end wide receiver 3, low-end wide receiver 2. So you got to draft him in the 8th round. But guess what? If that's Aaron Rodgers, wide receiver 1, Aaron Rodgers, wide receiver 1, has never been that cheap from an ADP perspective. So yeah, he would be the one. Again, I've said before, in unknown situations, take the dude with the cheapest ADP. But the cheapest ADP are rookies who were drafted like day 2 and day 3. That's a little dicey for me. I would think the guy, if you want to find like maybe a sleeper in the Packers receiving room, and I don't know how good he's actually going to be, but I would think it's like maybe Amari Rodgers. He's had a year under his belt. learn the playbook, sit back and watch and learn. He had the chance to, learn from Davante Adams last year while they were teammates. Didn't make much of an impact last year. That happens frequently with Packers wide receivers. Remember, even Davante Adams. Davante Adams didn't hit until like his third season. I think Davante Adams' first 2 seasons were pretty quiet. His rookie season definitely was, and I think his second season was too. I think he dealt with drops. He was inconsistent. It wasn't until his third season where he really started to perform well. So, like, a guy to keep an eye on, I think, who's flying totally under the radar is Amari Rodgers. But that being said, Allen Lazard is the most proven player in this receiving room. No disrespect to Randall Cobb, but Randall Cobb is like, unfortunately, he's on the downside. Lazard is not. So yeah, take Lazard, around 80. If he goes like in the 6th round, then I wouldn't go that far. Who's available in the 6th round? Come on. I mean, at least according to Underdog Fantasy, like Amari Cooper, Adam Thielen, Elijah Moore, Devontae Smith. I think I want all these guys more than Allen Lazard. Hell, Michael Thomas, his ADP is probably about to go way up because he pretty much declared himself ready to go yesterday. Even DeAndre Hopkins, who is facing a 6-game suspension, I'll sit and wait on that one. And then I got a wide receiver 1 by week 7 that I just got to wait. I just have to kind of tread water. So I'm not going nuts to draft Allen Lazard, but if you can get him 80 picks into a draft, I would say that's a fine chance to take. Johnny, yeah. Would I rather have Gosiki or Albert? I mean, I guess I'd rather have Alberto, just because he's attached to Russell Wilson, and Gosiki is attached to Tua in an offense that added Tyreek Hill and Chase Edmonds, like one of the premier wide receivers in the league and a pass-catching running back. And oftentimes, pass-catching running backs and tight ends, they cannibalize each other a little bit. They're getting very similar targets. Pass-catching running back and a tight end are getting very similar targets. So if you can move Gosiki and keep Alberto, I would say I'd rather do that. But yeah, if you think the 1st round pick will be better than, say, like 10th or 11th or 12th, sure, do the deal, because you're getting a top 5 tight end back in Kittle and a 1st round pick in a highly touted draft class. So yeah. These goddamn bots. I'm sorry, guys. This has not happened for so long. The block button is in full force right now. I do not care about you, Naked HD. So I apologize for this one, guys. DK was like, he's a little hobbled, so to speak. Well, he's probably going to be. I think he's got 58.2 million real reasons to feel good now, Scott. So yeah, congratulations if you got a ton of DK shares. And William, appreciate it, man. Thanks for coming in. Glad you found us. We usually are a 2-man show. My co-host is he's off this week. He's visiting family. We hope to have him back next week. But yeah, we are here. We're here every Tuesday and Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern. And with the season upon us, we got tons of training camp notes to talk through. Preseason starts next week, and then of course we're ramping up our coverage even more as the season gets closer. So glad you could hopefully you find this helpful or enjoyable enough to hang out for a little while. Happy to have you. So yeah, welcome aboard. New Jerusalem, good to see you. And the bots are usually not this bad, for fuck's sake. I'm really sorry, guys. I will block them as quickly as I can see them, but This is annoying. This doesn't usually happen. So they got to go away at some point. Let's see here. Where we going? And Rojo, yeah, appreciate the kind words. Well, we love talking shop with whoever wants to come in and you guys give us your time. We're happy to. We'll take any and all questions. We'll take any and all talking points. At the end of the day, yeah, we just want this to be a fun place to talk football, to talk fantasy. New Jerusalem. How do I feel about Wan'Dale Robinson? So I think Sterling Shepard is on the PUP list, right? Kadarius Toney is apparently making waves in training camp, so that's a good sign for Toney. Kenny Goliday is still there. They paid him a ton of money. You have to think that they want to continue to get Goliday involved in the offense. They gave him, what they give him, like $60 million? Like it was like 4 years, 60 mil, something along those lines for Goliday, and he had a bad season last year. He also had some bad luck. So maybe like he gets some positive regression in some department. I think on a per game basis, Goliday was like top 10 in red zone targets, but he didn't score a touchdown. Now, some of that can be attributed to the offense stunk. Daniel Jones missed most of the second half of the season with a neck injury. And Joe Judge was a boob who didn't know what he was doing. Now he's got a much better offensive mind and Brian Daboll calling the shots. This offense should naturally be better. But as far as Wan'Dale, where is he on the Giants depth chart? Let me see here. So I am very intrigued by Wan'Dale. I think he's got an interesting skill set. I think he's only like 5'7", 5'8". What's this depth chart looking like? So Sterling Shepard is listed as a starter, but Shepard is on the PUP list. I got to think Wan'Dale has already leapfrogged somebody like Darius Slayton on the depth chart. Wasn't Slayton like a 6th round pick and hasn't made a ton of noise for a couple years now? Wan'Dale was a 2nd round pick. So Wan'Dale's got the draft capital over Slayton. I would think he's already over him on the depth chart. I got to think so. He's got a chance because if Shepard is still banged up and the team let Evan Ingram walk in free agency, there's slot work available here in a Giants offense for Brian Daboll, who notoriously went 3 wide in Buffalo. They ran 11 personnel in Buffalo all the time. And the Giants depth chart at tight end is not like, oh, they're definitely gonna run 12 personnel. Their tight ends are Ricky Seals-Jones, Daniel Bellinger, who is an intriguing prospect. John likes him a lot. And Jordan Akins, who I think is like a 30-year-old journeyman at this point. Yeah. The Giants are not in a position where they're going to be running a ton of 12 personnel. They should be running 3 receiver sets as much as they can. If Sterling Shepard is not healthy, then Wan'Dale should be that next man up over Darius Slayton. Wan'Dale's a very interesting, he's an interesting name. I'm intrigued by him. He's got the 2nd round draft capital, and it's not the deepest collection of wide receivers in New York. Kadarius Toney's, I guess, operates as the wide receiver 1. Kenny Goliday will be a starter just based on the money that he's getting paid. That you can't, in your 2nd year of that contract, you can't bench him. Not yet. The Giants are going to have Kenny Goliday as one of their starters. But then it's like, it's either Sterling Shepard, who has failed to stay healthy for most of the past couple of seasons, or your interesting 2nd round pick in Wan'Dale Robinson. Now, again, he's like 5'7", 5'8". We're talking about like a Rondale Moore size type. And Rondale Moore, I think what do you have? Like 40 catches, 400 yards last year, something along those lines. What did Rondale have last year? Just checking Rondale's stats. I'm looking in the wrong place. But yeah, I mean, I think he topped out around like 400 yards, maybe 40 catches. How many He only had 1 touchdown. So I don't want to come, it's not just, oh, well, Wandale's 5'8", Rondale Moore is 5'8", so they're going to have the same numbers. That's not necessarily the case, but it's just, we have to keep that in mind. This is not like some 6'1" prospect who's got the more traditional build at the wide receiver position. But yeah, he could be used like the Swiss Army knife of sorts. He's got some interesting appeal. And his ADP is like, what? In the 180s or lower? Probably even lower than that. He's probably flying way under the radar. On Underdog Fantasy, Wan'Dale Robinson's ADP, if I could spell, is 190. There's a non-zero chance he's a popular week 1 waiver ad in 10 and 12 team redraft leagues. And if he's taking backfield snaps, like, that's spicy. That's what you like to hear. That's what you like to see. So yeah, keep an eye on Wan'Dale Robinson, especially with Sterling Shepard continuing to miss time. And when I last saw, I don't think he's been taken off the PUP list. Yeah, he's recovering from a torn Achilles. So there's gonna be work available for Wan'Dale. It's a good call out. New Jerusalem. Wan'Dale's a good call out. For sure. A 190, there's no risk involved. Yeah, he could be a nice little piece this year. Alex, where to draft Lazard if he's available in a rookie draft? So in this scenario, like the rookies are available with like free agents. I'd still take Breece Hall. I guess I'd take Kenneth Walker. I'd probably take Olave. I'd probably take Jamison Williams. I'd take Garrett Wilson. I'd probably still take Treylon Burks. I would, 8th or 9th. If it's a super flex league, I guess I'll take Pickett. So like maybe 9th or 10th in a super flex league, maybe 8th or 9th in a 1 quarterback league. I'm still taking the highest rated prospects, the highest prospects of this draft class ahead of someone like Allen Lazard. Just it's a dynasty league. So I'll take the longevity with the guys who are being billed as the blue chip prospects. Hall, Walker, Wilson, Olave, Burks, J-Mo. Am I missing somebody? Am I missing anybody? And then maybe Kenny Pickett in a super flex league. So yeah, somewhere around 8 or 9. I would take Lazard if he's available as a veteran free agent in a rookie draft. Somewhere around there. And Rojo, as far as Kylan goes, he's interesting because I do think that the Packers' backfield is what you should be investing in the Green Bay offense this year. Probably he was way too talented to just be a 7th round pick. Unfortunately, he got hurt somewhat early in the season last year and missed the rest of the season. I would think he gets a chance to mix in this year because I think Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon are going to both carry a huge workload this year collectively. Those are the guys in the Packers offense that I really want. I want Jones in the 2nd round, and I'll take Dillon as soon as the 5-6 turn, maybe like late in the 5th round if I feel like I need to, if I'm not crazy about the other options and I need to nab him, I'll take AJ Dillon, at the end of the 5th round. I like Dillon over a lot of guys who are listed as their team starters this year. I like him more than Josh Jacobs. I like him more than Elijah Mitchell. Trying to think of who I like Antonio Gibson a lot, but Dylan would be fine to take over him. I think I like Dylan more than I like J.K. Dobbins, just because Dobbins is working his way back from that ACL tear, and Dylan led the backfield in carries last year. So, you might be putting a lot of work on the plate of two running backs. That might mean the third running back has a little bit more value in Green Bay than the third running back of other places. So yeah, Kylan Hill's worth a last pick flyer. Sure. Especially with so many questions about the Packers receivers. So yeah. Scott agrees on Wandale. You like to see it. We're on Team Wandale here today. So yeah, go ahead and join a best ball and snatch up Wandale with one of your last couple of picks. William, you got Hopkins as one of your most drafted in best ball. I got a ton of Hopkins. It's easy. It's an easy call because here's the difference between DeAndre Hopkins and somebody else who's like going to miss part of the season. He's not hurt. He's just suspended on a. I mean, he technically broke the rules, but it was not like I forget what he actually got flagged for. It wasn't an actual HGH type of situation, and now it's like, is his performance gonna dwindle a little bit because he was relying on some illegal substance? It sounded like it was kind of BS. I love getting Hopkins in best ball because you tread water for 6 weeks and then boom, week 7, I have another wide receiver 1 added to whoever I already draft or who I drafted early. I love getting Hopkins, especially in best ball, and I'll take him in redraft too. Again, all you got to do is if you're 3-3 or even like 2-4, your team's like kind of meh at the beginning of the season, but then you can just throw Hopkins in as maybe your wide receiver 3. You're gonna be looking real scary. That team's gonna your wide receiver room's gonna be looking real strong. By week 7 or 8, nobody's gonna like looking at your wide receivers if you're slotting in DeAndre Hopkins as your wide receiver 3. So yeah, I'm all on board with the stash and wait approach with Hopkins because he's not hurt. He missed time in 2021, but he's not hurt now. If anything, this increases his chances of him being available for you for the rest of the season, week 7 on, for the entire second half of the season. That's 6 games of no wear and tear. And then when are you going to have DeAndre Hopkins? The playoffs. So yeah, give me all the Hopkins. Give me all the Hopkins shares. And then as far as Lazard, yeah, I mean he's an 8th round investment, but as Aaron Rodgers wide receiver 1, or what we expect to be Aaron Rodgers wide receiver 1, the 8th round is as cheap as it gets when it comes to Aaron Rodgers wide receiver 1. Where to take Albert O in that same draft, Alex? Maybe like the 1-2 turn. Now it's like, okay, maybe I'd rather take Dotson. Maybe I'll take George Pickens. Maybe I'll take James Cook. Maybe I'll take Rashad White. Who else is going in that range? And then it's going to depend, like, how much do you like Dameon Pierce? How much do you, we just got done talking about Wan'Dale Robinson. How much do you like him? I would take Albert O at this point over guys like Zamir White. Maybe like an Alec Pierce. I would take him. I would take Albert O over Tyler Algier. His stock is going up. I think I'd probably rather have Albert O. Like Brian Robinson, I'd rather have Albert O. So yeah, maybe the top of the second round. Take your blue chip prospects and then Alan Lazard, and then maybe like Dotson, Pickens, James Cook, Rashad White, those names in super flex. If you want to take a shot on Malik Willis, okay. Although I wouldn't blame you if you prefer Albert O, just because him and Desmond Ridder are, the draft capital is just like, it's okay. It's not great. So Alberto, maybe like high second round. I'd probably take Rashad White over him, and then at that point, it's like, okay, now I have a decision to make. And I'm taking Alberto ahead of Dulcich. I know Dulcich is he was drawing rave reviews in mini camp and OTAs, but it's hard for young rookie tight ends to make an impact. It really is. Not everybody can be Kyle Pitts. Hell, not everybody can be Pat Fryermuth. And he's got Alberto ahead of him on the depth chart. Dulcich does, on top of Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy and Tim Patrick, plus two really good running backs in the backfield. There's a lot of mouths to feed in that Broncos offense, and Dulcich should see the field. But like, are we really gonna? It's gonna require 12 personnel. And then you got to take Tim Patrick off the field, who has caught 50 passes in back-to-back seasons. Like, do we really want to take Tim Patrick off the field in favor of a fourth-round rookie? Or when was Dulcich taken? Was it third round? His prospects are real interesting. I think he's got a really good RAS score, Dulcich does, but so does Alberto. Like, Alberto's the starter and should be for, I would say, at least the next 2 or 3 years. So I'm taking Alberto over Dulcich. For sure. Johnny, as far as, let's see, what do we got here? Elijah Moore, Deontay Johnson, or DJ Moore? In Dynasty? Yeah, man, I love Deontay. I've been a Deontay stan since his rookie season, when I was like, who is this guy who's wide open and Mason Rudolph sucks way too bad to get him the ball? Who is this guy? I love Deontay. DJ Moore is probably the smart play for Dynasty because he's young. Well, how old is Deontay's what, 26? I know DJ Moore is 25. Deontay's not that much older. Deontay just turned 26. When does DJ Moore turn 26? I know he's already 25. Oh, all right, he turned 25 in April. So Deontay's like about a year older. We're splitting hairs at this point. It's close. It's close. DJ Moore is insanely talented because he's put up 3 straight 1,000-yard seasons with dumpster fires at quarterback. As now for Deontay's put up really strong numbers, but he had a noodle arm Ben Roethlisberger just dumping the ball off to him with a bunch of short passes. I'm not trying to hate on Deontay. I think Deontay's fantastic. I think he's awesome. Should be a really good receiver for, I would say, the next 5 years. I'll give the smallest of edges to DJ Moore because he's 1 year younger, but it's close. Now, Elijah Moore, he's 21, 22, so he's like the youngest of the group. And I like Elijah Moore. He's 22. I mean, still. So he's 3 years younger than DJ Moore. He's 4 years younger than Deontay Johnson. But I have to give the benefit. I have to give the nod to the guys who have put together multiple, really productive seasons in the NFL. DJ Moore started falling off as like a unusable wide receiver 4 in the second half of last year, but he gets a modest quarterback upgrade in Baker Mayfield. That's the best quarterback DJ Moore has ever played with. And he's put up 1,000-yard seasons with slop at quarterback. The Panthers should stink this year. They should be in the 2023 quarterback sweepstakes, which means DJ Moore could get yet another quarterback upgrade next year. So I'll give the DJ Moore 1, Deontay Johnson 2, but it's more like 1A, 1B. It's almost like personal preference at that point. Elijah Moore is 3rd. I really like Elijah Moore, and he's obviously, for dynasty purposes, it's always like, well, let's take a look at the youth. Who's the youngest guy? Who's got the guy with the longevity on his side? But like, you can't discount the guys who have been there and done that. If DJ Moore was 28 and Deontay was 29, that's a little different story, because now you're talking about like a 7 or 8 year age gap, and in dynasty, It's like, how do I stay good but stay, but how do I maximize my window? That's what I was trying to say. Where like my team is maybe young, but they're all young, good players. They're established players. Elijah Moore is well on his way, but I gotta put him third, even though he's the youngest. Between him and DJ and Deontay. So more Deontay, like a 1A, 1B, personal preference. If you want to argue Deontay over DJ Moore, you're not going to get an argument from me. And then Elijah Moore. But all three are good. And no, you're fine, Johnny. No issues with question. Ask as many questions as you need to. But obviously, at the end of the day, you got to do what you want to do. This is your team. You're the one who has to pull the trigger on trades. So I can give you all the thoughts that I have on certain scenarios. But at the end of the day, you could say, you know what, I don't agree with that. I'm going to do what I want to do. So yeah, like if you prefer Deontay to DJ, that's fine. If you prefer Elijah Moore to both of those guys because he's younger and he's got some interesting upside, that's fine. I wouldn't rank him first, though, just because he's the youngest. Roman, what's going on? What Broncos wide receiver am I targeting in full point PPR? And I see that Scott says down below Tim Patrick. I am personally very interested in Jerry Jeudy. Right? Jeudy had a solid rookie season, all things considered. Because in that year, that was when I think Cortland Sutton tore his ACL. Was it like week 1 or 2? It was early. Like the team was without, or was it in the preseason? It was really early. Cortland Sutton tore his ACL, missed the entire year. Jerry Jeudy had to operate as the Broncos wide receiver 1. Did pretty well, having to operate as a rookie, as the team's wide receiver 1 with again god awful quarterback play. And then last year, he suffered Jeudy himself was the one who got hurt. He suffered a high ankle sprain week 1 against the Giants. And a high ankle sprain is one of those injuries where it doesn't take you out for the season, but it's going to kill your effectiveness for the season. Like he played, but he just wasn't effective. That's one of those injuries that really hampers you. I am curious to see what Jerry Jeudy can do fully healthy with an actual quarterback in Russell Wilson. And remember, up in Seattle, Russell Wilson supported 2 wide receiver 1s. DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett both had wide receiver 1 stretches. So honestly, you can go wherever you can. If you prefer Cortland Sutton, take Cortland Sutton. If you prefer Jerry Jeudy, take Jerry Jeudy. If you want to, roll the dice on Tim Patrick, do it. Like all 3 of these guys should be viable. Hell, I like KJ Hamler as a flyer. But for me, if I had to pick one, I'll go Jeudy. 15th overall pick in the draft not too long ago. Has flashed talent dating back to his rookie season. I think he can operate as as something of a deep threat. As far as like complete receivers go, I think he can operate as he'll operate deep. He'll go deep. Russ throws a good deep ball, and I think people are sleeping on Jeudy a little bit. Maybe not sleeping because his ADP is still pretty good, but it's easy to forget how highly touted he was as a prospect because rookie season was forced into a number 1 role on a bad offense, and then last year the high ankle sprain week 1. That's going to derail anybody's season. So yeah, I'm really intrigued by Jeudy. So that would be if I had to pick one name, Roman, it would be Jeudy. William, it looks like we lost a few people. I hope the stream is okay. You guys, it looks like we maybe lost a couple of people out. Maybe I'm boring everybody. I hope not. But William, if you're still in here, I can tell you right now who I have the highest exposure to on Underdog. Three most drafted in general, like not by position or with the excluding position. It's hang on. That just wait, that didn't update for me. Hold on a second. I gotcha. Jarvis Landry's up there. I can tell you that because of before he got signed by the Saints, his ADP was like in the 140s, and I was like, he's going to sign somewhere, and and his ADP is going to go way up. So Jarvis Landry is number one. Actually, all three of my guys are wide receivers. I don't know how I feel about this one, but Rondale Moore is my second highest, the player I have the second most exposure to. I guess just because his ADP is still like in the 110s. It hasn't gone up. One, too much from his rookie season, or two, as a reaction to the DeAndre Hopkins suspension. Rondale Moore's ADP has not risen. Marquise Brown's has risen, but Rondale's hasn't. And Rondale's got a chance. He should be something of an every down player for them, at least for the first 6 games. So I got Rondale as my Landry is my most exposed, the player I have the most exposure to. Again, this dates back to when he was a free agent for a little bit longer than most. So his ADP was like in the 130s, 140s. I was like, he's a safe wide receiver 3 who should be going 30 spots higher. So I got a ton of Landry. I got a ton of Rondale Moore. And then the last guy is Adam Thielen, which maybe is a little bit of a roll of the dice. Adam Thielen's older. He's 32, 33 years old, battled some injuries last year. Obviously, when a guy gets older and is suffering injuries, he's a little bit more of a risk. But Adam Thielen is a touchdown scoring machine. Adam Thielen wakes up every NFL season, rolls out of bed, and scores double-digit touchdowns. And he's available in the 7th round. It was his ADP has since climbed a little bit, but Thielen wasn't healthy to end the season last year, so his ADP has taken a hit. So I'm hammering that at cost, like in the 7th round, all day long. So those are the guys I have the most exposure to in best ball so far. Jarvis Landry, because of his dirt cheap ADP earlier in the offseason. Rondale Moore, because his ADP hasn't fluctuated too much. It's still like 110 or so, even with the DeAndre Hopkins suspension. And then Adam Thielen, 7th round with a guy who is notorious scoring double-digit touchdowns. I know he's older, and I know he had I think it was an ankle injury last year, so there's risk. But this Vikings offense is going to throw the ball more than they have in years past with this new offense. They ditch Mike Zimmer. They bring in the Rams offensive coordinator. They're running more 11 personnel. All the players are talking about how they're excited about this offense. Give me Adam Thielen in the 7th round. So those are my guys. Those are the guys I have the most exposure to in best ball. New Jerusalem, as far as playing in a league with us, so it does come with a bit of a small monetary investment. So we offer leagues to our members. So if you are interested in this channel, if you do care enough to maybe throw a little bit of support our way, we won't ask for it. We're always, these live streams are of course for you guys. We're happy to have share our time with you guys multiple days a week, all season long, all year long. Really, we don't stop. Just we take like a short break after the Super Bowl, but not a very long one. But if you do choose to become a member, and there are details about becoming a member in the first link in the description of this video. It's also the first link in the description of all of our recent videos on this channel. There are details about the perks of becoming a member of our channel. One of them is you would get to join a league with us. You would get to play in a league with us. And we actually are on the cusp of kicking off our first members only league. We do have one of our members I haven't seen him for a little while. His name's AB. So AB, if you're out there, if you're listening or if you see this, I'm trying to find you, bro, because I need you to join. But We do offer the opportunity to play fantasy leagues with us, myself and John, to the members. There are a couple additional perks. You get some additional content from us. My draft plan becomes available a little sooner, a few weeks sooner for the members. So you can read. There's a little bit more detail about that again in the first link in the description of this video, New Jerusalem. So that's the caveat. Small, there's small monetary investment. There's no additional buy-in to join those leagues. And then the winner gets, I think what we agreed upon, the winner of the leagues, John and I go in and get you you'll get a jersey. You get some merch. You can either have some merch or you can get a jersey of your choice. And it can be anything. It can be a player that was on your team that helped you win. It could be a player on your favorite team. It could be it could be a jersey from another league, Canadian football or NFL Europe. You want something different or vintage or something to take to Coachella or a music festival. We got that would be the reward. So that's how to join a league with us. If you're interested, the first link in the description has a couple more details. So that would be how to do it. If you are also interested, and I forgot to do this today, but I was talking to Alex, one of our members. I don't know if he's still in here, but I was talking about him yesterday. I was going to drop a link to a private best ball in our Discord. I didn't do it today. I'll do that either tonight or tomorrow morning. So if you want, I can also set up like a private best ball for anyone who might be interested in playing. I'll put it in the Discord. We do have a Discord for any of you guys who are not in the Discord. You do not need to be a member of this channel to join the Discord. Just it keeps that's the second link in the description of this video and all of our recent videos on the channel. Where you can keep the conversation going after this stream ends. After we're done, if there's another thing you want to talk about, another topic that you want to discuss, or any other questions you may have, the Discord is open. Again, there's an evergreen invite to join the Discord. Second link in the description of this live stream and all of our most recent videos. We got an awesome community that's growing in there. People who are always willing and eager to talk football at any time. You can drop your question or your comment in there whenever you want. We'll get to it as soon as we can. And I'm thinking about I'll drop a invite to a private best ball. I'll make it a slow draft so that nobody has to be available at any one given time. It just kicks off when it kicks off, when it fills. I could throw a link to an invite there. That could be another way, New Jerusalem, if you want to play best ball with us. Now, of course, Underdog Fantasy has to be available where you live. I unfortunately don't have control over that. It's location based, but that's also an option if you want to join our if you want to join the Discord. I'll drop a link in there. Alex, you already know. Speaking of AB, we need to find you, man. We got to fill our first members only league. I might what I have to do is like go on his he didn't have like any details available on his channel about how to contact him, like an email or whatever. I might need to like drop a comment on one of his videos like, hey man, I know this is a year old, but hit me up, get in touch. But anyway, so any more details about this channel in general? First link for member perks if you feel so inclined. Second link for the Discord. You don't need to be a member to join the Discord. We're just in there talking football 24/7. And Johnny, I'll just reiterate what I said earlier. I would rather have Deontay. I really like Elijah Moore. I'm really excited about his prospects, his potential for the future. But Deontay was a wide receiver 1 last year. We can't take that away from him. I know Ben Roethlisberger is gone. We don't know what type of transition we're looking at with Mitchell Trubisky likely being the 2022 starter. Who knows when the Steelers will turn to Kenny Pickett? That's a team and franchise that always expects to compete. So if they feel like the veteran gives them the best chance to succeed, they will continue to play with they'll run Mitchell Trubisky out there. We'll see what that means for Deontay. That could be better news for Claypool and George Pickens. Who knows? But Deontay was a wide receiver 1 in points per game last year. I think he was the overall wide receiver 8 or 9 on the season, at least in half PPR. So I got to give the edge to Deontay. I like Elijah Moore. I like his long-term prospects, but even in Dynasty, even him being 3 years older, give me Deontay. Um, Now, as far as Albert versus Gosiki, yeah, I'd rather have Albert. A lot of mouths to feed in Denver, but it's a much better quarterback. And there's lots of mouths to feed in Denver or in Miami too, with Gosiki, not as good of a quarterback. I'm intrigued by Tua. I like Tua more than John does. John is out on Tua. I'm not out on Tua. I'm intrigued by Tua, but Tua's not as good as Russell Wilson. Let's call a spade a spade. And he's got to throw the ball to Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. Gosiki should mix in or will mix in, but he's also got Chase Edmonds to throw the ball to as well. Pass catching running back who usually cannibalizes the tight end. So give me Alberto for his upside and attached to a much better quarterback. Moon, what's going on? If you're still in here, hopefully you're still in here. I saw some of the live the members of the live chat fall off a little bit. Hopefully hopefully there's no issues with the stream, and hopefully I'm not taking too long to get to questions or comments. But Moon, good to see you. If you're still in here, you are tanking. Okay, you have Godwin. Should you be looking to sell? I like Godwin, but yeah. If you're tanking, I think this is the time to sell Godwin. I mean, his status or his stock may have taken a little bit of a hit with Julio. But how old is Godwin? Is he 27 now? No, he's 26. So he's an age away from his age apex season. So next year, like a fully healthy Chris Godwin might go back to tearing up the league. What was he averaging before the injury? Like 12 catches a game. He was soaking up so many targets and catches, and like in the middle to the second half of the season last year before he suffered the torn ACL. Now he's got the torn ACL. He's 26, so he's not old, but he'll be 27 next year. And if you're tanking hard, and Moon, if you feel free to elaborate, if you're not expecting to compete for another 3 years, 3 years, now you're talking about a 28, 29-year-old Godwin. You might only have another year or two of elite production out of him, maybe 2 or 3. I hope Chris Godwin is awesome until he's 32, 33, but that's not necessarily something I would hang my hat on. Right? Like, look at Julio. Julio's a layup for the Hall of Fame. He's 33 years old now. And, I mean, where do we rank Julio? He's a wide receiver 4, maybe, at best. The landing spot boosts him a little bit. So that just goes to show you, like, how it doesn't take much for the mighty to fall in the NFL. Okay, you think you might be a pretender for the next 2 years. So yeah, you're talking about a 28-year-old Godwin who probably won't have Tom Brady anymore. If the guy's only going to do Olave straight up, now here's where you can maybe try to get creative. Could you offer a second-round pick and see if he'll pony up a first in addition to Olave? Like, really, like, lean. If you're going to tank hard, lean in, man. Lean in. Just be like, yo, I'll give you a second round. Like, I'll attach a second-round pick to a dude. Like, here's your talking point for Godwin. The man was the wide receiver 2 overall not too long ago with Jameis Winston as his quarterback. Now Tom Brady's his quarterback, and when he's healthy, he averages 10 catches a game. Olave 1-for-1, I would try to get more out of that. If you like Olave, then sure, target Olave. Like, if he's your guy that you're looking at. But I would see and I know if when you're tanking, you never want to give up draft capital, but if you can turn a second into a first, it's like, then okay, yeah, now we're talking. Like, maybe see if he'll do that. Try to get creative with it to just, like, get another first-round pick out of it, because Godwin's worth it. He's that good. High-end wide receiver 1 production so far in his career. The torn ACL is a concern. if you're not going to be a contender for a couple of years, you're talking about 28, 29-year-old Chris Godwin with who the hell knows as his quarterback. And obviously the Bucs are not going to be in the quarterback sweepstakes for 2023. They're a playoff team. They're going to win the division, right? So, and Tom Brady almost retired this year. Does he do it for real next year? And then the Bucs have a team where it's like you would think even if Tom Brady retires next year, that is a roster where I would think they try to make a trade for, I don't know, somebody who's a competent quarterback. It's not going to be Kyle Trask. I promise you that. Maybe they try, depending on who becomes available next year, they're going to try to, I would think, stay competitive. I'm like rattling off like thought, like maybe like a Ryan Tannehill. I don't know. Like the Titans might be bad this year. Maybe I'm total guess. Like maybe like a Ryan Tannehill is a guy that the Bucs try to trade for next year in an event where Tom Brady retires. They try to stay competitive because their roster's good, their defense is good. They still have Mike Evans, Godwin's there. They got they still have Leonard Fournette. They have Tristan Wirfs and Shaq Mason along the offensive line. They still got Devin White on defense. Like, this is still a good Bucs roster, right? They're going to try to still compete. But like that's a guess. That's an absolute guess. And Ryan Tannehill is obviously not Tom Brady. He's been solid. He's been pretty efficient the past couple of years, but he's not Tom Brady. So this is the time. If you know that you're not going to be good, you're looking at your roster and then like, I need to tank. Yeah, sell Godwin. And if you want Olave, that's fine. But I would see if you can, like, if he's only saying like, I'm only going to do it 1-for-1, try to get creative. Just be like, I'll give you a 2nd-round pick. You get some draft capital in return, but give me a 1st. Olave in a 1st for Godwin in a 2nd. Like, that's fair. That's absolutely fair. Because Chris Godwin, we've seen perform as a top 5 wide receiver. So the Olave guy needs to back off the, as far as like he's only doing it 1-for-1. I wouldn't say that the Olave one is the Olave person, the person who has Olave rostered is the one who's negotiating from a position of power here. I think you are, because you've got the proven player. And if he doesn't go for it, expand your interests, Moon. Like it's like no, only 1-for-1. That's not I'm looking elsewhere. I'm saying, okay, cool, good to know. I'm gonna go shop Godwin to other people. Like call his bluff. And I understand wanting a player. Sometimes there's just a guy. Sometimes there's just guys you fall in love with. Like you really like Olave. I like Olave. I think Olave is the rookie wide receiver 1 this year. I think he should be the best rookie this year, even with the Michael Thomas news that he's turning a corner. But see if you can get a 1st. And if he says no, it's be like, all right, attach a 2nd, and you got to, then it's like, okay, would that be enough for you? But Godwin is worth squeeze as much. He's still only 26. A contending team will be happy with him for the next 3 years. Should be willing to pay a higher price. But yes, if you're looking at your team and like I'm not going to be good for another 3 years, sell Godwin. I think that is the smart forward thinking move. But yeah, maximize you're not in a rush to have to move him. I would think he gains value as we progress through the season. He's getting healthy. Like you don't have to do it today. If you can get Olave in a 1st, then yeah, sure. I would then maybe do it today. But you don't have to do it today. His value should theoretically go up in season. And then at the trade deadline, maybe there's a contender who's willing to pony up a little bit more. So you've got options, but yes, ultimately, maybe by the trade deadline for your league's trade deadline this offseason or this season, I would sell Godwin. But yeah, let us know how that goes. feel free to come on back. Again, we are here Tuesdays and Thursdays, 6 p.m. Eastern, every week. So if you need, if you have a conversation today, it's, it's going days and days or whatever, feel free to come on back Tuesday. We can talk through it again. Or as always, join the Discord. You guys are, we take trade questions all the time in the Discord. If you're not in there, second link in the description of this live stream, and second link in the description of all of our videos on this channel. Open invite, evergreen invite. Anyone's, join the Discord. We'll keep the conversation going over there. By all means, feel free. New Jerusalem is Ty. Ty Conklin's a Jet, and Ty Conklin might be the sneakier, the sneaky better investment than I like CJ Uzomah, but Uzomah was missing time this preseason with injuries. Ty Conklin was getting some first team run just out of the fact that he was the one who was available. And his ADP is like outside the top 200. I like the tight end depth this year. Tight end has been a barren wasteland for the past couple of years. I've been, when I put my draft plans together for redraft for the past couple of years, I've been pounding the table. Just get Travis Kelce or George Kittle or Darren Waller. Just go get a stud. This year, there's more depth to play with. And Conklin feels like, I would draft like at least one other tight end if you punt the position. But Ty Conklin that's fine. He's not going to be an every week starter. It's going to probably be a situation where it's like, I'm just hoping for a touchdown every other week or every 2 weeks. But yeah, he should be fine. I like this. I'm very intrigued by this Jets offense. And Cougar Slayer, Zach Wilson, the GOAT himself. Appreciate the thumbs up, New Jerusalem. I wasn't sure. I saw I was like, oh, we got like 14, 15 people in here. And then I looked up, I was like, there's 1 or 2 people in here. I was like, oh, crap. Did the stream break or freeze, or am I like boring the hell out of people? So appreciate the thumbs up. CXK, what's going on, man? We are, I guess, we're getting close to the end of the chat. So probably go for, I'm happy to go for a little bit longer. I'm happy to talk through if anybody's got other questions or comments, feel free to put them in the chat. But if the chat does start to fizzle out, that's probably when I'll start to look to wrap things up. But by all means, keep the talking points coming. If you want me to keep going, I'm happy to keep going. Olave's expensive. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I'm very intrigued by Olave. I think he's going to be really good. I do. And we just got done talking about Chris Godwin finishing as the wide receiver 2 not too long ago. That was with Jameis Winston. Now Jameis is throwing the ball to Chris Olave for at least this season. We'll see what the Saints end up doing at quarterback next year, but I would think they compete. They're going to compete for a wild card spot. That defense is really good. The reason the Saints bottomed out last year was because Michael Thomas wasn't healthy and Jameis Winston got hurt. And it was Trevor Siemian throwing the ball to Marquez Callaway and Traquan Smith, and Alvin Kamara was in jail. On the I'm being like tongue in cheek, not literally I didn't mean to I know he's got a legal situation going on. His situation on the field last year was hell. Kamara was bottled up because he was the only threat on offense. That's what I meant by that. Not anything to do with his current legal situation. This Saints offense should be good this year, though, with a healthy Jameis Winston and a healthy Michael Thomas. And Chris Olave is going to be a big part of that. But if you're trying to acquire him, Godwin is that dude. Godwin is that guy. And I think it's fair to ask, if you're tanking, it's fair and reasonable to ask for draft capital in addition. Because you are getting, when he's at the top of his game, a proven, bona fide wide receiver 1 in Chris Godwin. Catching passes from Tom Brady for at least 1 more season. Any wide receiver you can target to sell Jahan for in Dynasty. It depends. So Dotson was getting rave reviews early. in the offseason because Terry McLaurin was holding out for a new contract. Now Terry's there, and things have kind of quieted a little bit with Jahan Dotson. On top of that, Curtis Samuel is healthy, supposedly, and they paid him decent money. So I think Jahan Dotson is going to operate as this team's wide receiver 3, at least for this season. And while I like Dotson, I'm not sure Carson Wentz can support multiple productive pass catchers in a single offense. Terry McLaurin should be fine. Curtis Samuel, I'm intrigued by. Jahan Dotson, I like long-term, but I'm not sure about this year. I think it makes sense. If you're thinking about selling Dotson, you got to do one of two things. You got to do it now, or you got to wait till next year, because I have a feeling he's going to have a quiet season. I'm very intrigued about his long-term prospects. And Moon, if you took Jahan Dotson over Christian Watson, I would sign off on that. Thumbs up move from me. I would prefer to have Dotson over Christian Watson. Watson's got an interesting opportunity now, but he's a project, and he's on the PUP list, and Aaron Rodgers is his window is dwindling. Like, is Christian Watson going to be catching passes from Jordan Love 2 years from now? Like, gross. So good job taking Dotson over Watson. I'm okay with that. That being said, I wouldn't be surprised if Dotson has a quiet rookie season, because he's probably going to be playing behind, or he's definitely going to be playing behind Terry McLaurin, and I think he's probably going to be playing behind Curtis Samuel, who is a veteran. Ron Rivera loves him from his days in Carolina, and they paid him decent money. So I think Dotson's going to operate as the team's wide receiver 3 this year. So if you're trying to sell him, you probably got to do it soon. It depends. Are you trying to get a more proven player? Depends on what you're looking for. Whose vibes are down right now? Like earlier in the stream, we were talking about like Brandon Ayuk. Could you do Dotson and like a second round pick for Brandon Ayuk, something like that? Or that might take a first round pick. You don't want to like insult anybody with any offers, but somebody like that. Who else's stock is down right now? I guess CXK there's layers to the question. Are you competing? Do you need a guy where it's like, I'm trying to win now. I need a guy that's going to help me win this year. Find a team who you're looking at and you're like, I don't think that team's going to compete this year. Maybe this guy wants or girl. Maybe this person, this league mate wants young pieces for the future. Or are you in kind of like a situation where it's like, I want to stay young, but maybe I want like a slightly more proven, or a guy with like a little bit better of a chance to produce this year. It all depends on what specifically you're looking for, So maybe like give me a little bit more context, CSK. What you're okay? There we go. Competing, but don't need the player to start for me. Trying to think. How about this? I just got done talking about Deontay Johnson. What about his teammate? I know that the situation's a little murky. And I know he's kind of like a bonehead. Maybe he's got some maturity issues. He might need to grow up a little bit. He might not be on the Steelers for much longer. But what about Claypool? Yeah. He's got a great athletic profile. Scored 11 touchdowns as a rookie. Had a bad year last year, but a lot of that, he had some maturity issues. But Roethlisberger just couldn't throw it anymore. And I know Mitchell Trubisky's not like the best quarterback in the world, but I promise you his arm strength is better than Ben Roethlisberger's. Like 2022 Mitchell Trubisky's arm strength is better than 2022 retired Ben Roethlisberger. What about somebody like that? Third-year player. Again, great athletic profile. It got denied because the guy doesn't want Dotson, or he's not signed to sell, or he's not trying to give up on Claypool already. I don't know. That was just a thought. Um, Something like that. I mean, that would I think Claypool would be decent depth this year for a competing team. Um, and then again, it depends on how old do you want to get? Um, are you trying to stay young but competitive? You might have to attach a pick to that offer. Maybe it's just like, would you do it if I threw a second round pick in the deal? Because if you're competing and you think you're loaded, then a second round pick is not that doesn't do a whole lot. You can afford to get rid of them. I'm just going down the list of potential names. Maybe what about this one's a little dicey, but like a Michael Gallup, CXK. He declared himself he's not going to be ready week 1, but how old is Gallup? He's not old. What is he, 26? He's going to be the team's wide receiver 2 when he's healthy. How old is Gallup? He's 26. When does he turn 27? And obviously, it's always a risk, targeting dudes who are injured. He turned 26 in March, so he won't turn 27 until next year, and then that's his age apex season. Yeah. Yeah, it's a good point. That's why I was saying you either got to do it now or wait until the next season when he's got to. I guess I should just say I should have expanded a little bit more when we would expect that he's got a better chance to get his stock back up. Because now once Baker Mayfield got traded to Carolina and Robbie Anderson was flirting with retirement, those two things happening somewhat close to each other, Terrace Marshall's stock went back up without him having to do a whole lot. It's still not significant. Actually, I mean, this is maybe a little kind of in the opposite direction, CXK, but what about Terrace Marshall? Because you could probably get Terrace Marshall and say like a second round pick for Jahan Dotson right now. What about going in the opposite direction? Because he gets a modest quarterback upgrade in Baker Mayfield. I know that the Panthers are doing this BS where they're splitting first team reps between him and Darnold, but why did you trade a draft pick this year to trade for Baker Mayfield if he's not going to ultimately end up being your starter? If you really wanted Sam Darnold to just continue moving forward as your quarterback, then why'd you make the trade for Baker Mayfield? First of all, the Panthers are a little dumb. But what about that? Yeah, Terrace Marshall, second round draft capital from LSU. They've been churning out wide receivers recently. SEC talent. And you might be able to get draft capital back. Maybe go in that direction. Yeah, maybe try that. Yeah, this is why we talk through these things. Maybe try going the opposite direction because you might be able to get some draft compensation in return. Because then, hell, next year, you might be able to do the same thing with Jahan Dotson. You ship a rookie that you draft in 2023 for Dotson and draft capital, and then Dotson is now all of a sudden Dotson's stock goes up next year. Yeah, there you go. Now we're cooking with gas. I like it. I like that. See if the Terrace Marshall owner would go for that because Robbie Anderson is flirting with retirement, and even if he doesn't retire, it doesn't look like he's going to retire at this point. But isn't he 29? How old is Robbie Anderson? Yeah, he's 29. He'll be 30 next year. He's closer to and what's his contract situation? He signed a 2-year deal, 2-year, $29 million. Damn, they paid him. But I think he's in the last year of that deal. Oh no, okay. He is. There is another year on his contract with 2023, but there's an out after this year where his dead cap hit goes way down. The Panthers could do that. They could cut Robbie Anderson next year. It would be a gross cap hit, but Terrace Marshall's waiting in the wings. And then they can move forward with DJ Moore and Terrace Marshall. Yeah. I would see if you can swing that. I'll give you Dotson for Marshall and a second round pick. I would like that. And yeah, of course, man. Appreciate the kind words, but like, hey, this is why we talked through it. But I gotta give Moon a little credit there. Moon, he started the wheels churning on that idea by bringing up Terrace Marshall's name. This is why we talk through things, guys. You ultimately you come to something. It's like, yeah, okay. Because again, you mentioned like, oh well, I'm loaded at wide receiver. I'm not necessarily relying on the guy. Marshall could be a dude that emerges where it's like, oh, now all of a sudden it's like this dude could be my flex play. And I got a draft capital to boot. I would see if you could swing that. Attach a third round pick to it if you need to. Or maybe a couple of fourths. Maybe 1/4. Just like, oh, here's a little pot sweetener for you. So yeah. There you go. No, I like that idea. So yeah, it's the reactionary type of thing that a lot of people do with it, without thinking things through. Moon, like, if the guy doesn't produce 1,400 or 1,200 receiving yards his rookie year, he stinks, which is stupid, right? That's short-sighted. Not every guy hits right away. Not every dude is Jamar Chase. Not every dude is Justin Jefferson. That doesn't mean their career is over. Look at Devontae Adams. I know it's an extreme example because you're talking about at one point the best receiver in the league, maybe still, but he didn't fire his first 2 seasons. His rookie season was quiet. I think his second season was quiet. What happened that year? I know what happened that year. Jordy Nelson tore his ACL, right? Devontae Adams' second season. So Adams' stock went way up because it was like, oh, he's now a starter. And he's got Aaron Rodgers throwing the ball. But he didn't have a great year. It wasn't until his third season where it was like, oh, this guy can play. I'm pretty sure that's what happened. So yeah, take advantage of people who get, they get concerned with a rookie because he doesn't fire right away. Then when he's a second-year player, buy low on him, grab draft capital in return, and now you're running circles around your league mates. You're playing chess, not checkers. So yeah, I like it. How long to give a rookie wide receiver for him to boom? Depends on the situation, depends on the draft capital, but you got to give him a couple years. Not everybody fires right away. So yeah, like let's say you like the talent, the draft capital is solid. 3 years. Maybe the rookie season isn't doesn't go as planned. Try to buy low year 2. Maybe the year 2 he doesn't fire. Year 3, it's like, okay, we remember before the rookie receivers really started to pop right away, it was always like that 3-year trajectory, right? The third year breakout. That's what we always heard. The third year breakout for wide receivers. That's how much time I would give. After that, it's like, okay, maybe it's been 3 years in the league. The guy hasn't quite done a whole lot. Then it's like, all right, how much more can we possibly believe in this guy? Depending on the scenario, the draft capital, how good is the offense? What's the quarterback situation? What's the head coach situation? Is he a fossil like Mike Zimmer, or is he a guy from the Sean McVay coaching tree? Right. So there's all these variables to weigh. But yeah, I mean, I think 3 years is fair for a young receiver who's got at least day 2 draft capital. If he was drafted in the second round or the third round, even after his sophomore season, if he doesn't fire, I think that's too early to write a guy off. Third season, he doesn't fire. Okay. Then it's like, all right, maybe this guy just didn't work out. So yeah, I would say that's enough time. Some dudes, it's like by their second season, it's like, okay, this guy just like didn't work out. Like the first guy that comes to mind is like Jalen Reagor. 2 years in the league, he's been putrid, right? Nobody's trying to buy Jalen Reagor. He's going into his 3rd year. There's no 3rd-year breakout coming. The team that traded for A.J. Brown this season. Devontae Smith emerged. 6th-round pick Quez Watkins outperformed him, right? So, like, I'm not telling anybody, oh, go buy low on I wouldn't even spend a 4th-round pick on Jalen Reagor. So some dudes like, yeah, I won't give 3 years. And that's 1st-round draft capital. But now he's buried on the depth chart. I don't even know if he's going to. I mean, I assume he makes the team. He's probably going to make the team. But he's going to be, at best, the team's wide receiver 4. A 6th-round pick has officially leapfrogged him on the depth chart in Quez Watkins. So it depends. If Jalen Reagor was still in the mix to be the team's wide receiver 3, then all right, you want to throw like a late, like your last pick, like a 4th-round pick. Maybe your rookie drafts run 5 deep in Dynasty. Send a 5th-round pick over. Sure, let's roll the dice. But that's a scenario where it's like, okay, he's all, Quez Watkins, 6th-round pick, is ahead of him on the depth chart. I think it's fair to put a nail in that coffin. So it all depends on circumstance. Now, Terrace Marshall, 2nd-round draft capital, not 1st-round draft capital, but he's much closer to the top of the depth chart and got a quarterback upgrade. And, no disrespect but to TCU, but it's like sometimes it's fair to lean on the program. Jalen Reagor comes from TCU. Terrace Marshall comes from LSU. There's a big difference. So, yeah, draft capital. What school did they go to? Who's the quarterback? You can always go on Player Profiler and check out their college dominator score if you want to look at like some advanced metrics. Not always foolproof. Doesn't always translate. But yeah, those are all the variables. What's the depth chart look like? So, or like, like a Denzel Mims, like 2nd-round draft capital, but the team signed Corey Davis. They drafted Elijah Moore. This year they added Garrett Wilson. It's like, okay, this guy's done. Whereas with the Panthers, did the Panthers draft a receiver this year? They didn't. Probably not, because they keep trading all their draft picks for bottom-of-the-barrel quarterbacks. So Terrace Marshall is like, there's nobody. They didn't have the opportunity to bring anybody else in. I don't think they signed anybody of significance. Now I gotta go check. Now I gotta go check the Panthers depth chart. Terrace Marshall, what's this team look like? Yeah, he's listed as a starter. He's listed as the team's wide receiver 3. They added Rashard Higgins. Whoop-de-doo. Yeah, Marshall's already listed as a starter. Should be the team's wide receiver 2 as soon as next year. So there you go. It all depends on circumstance. But yeah, if the team adds multiple pieces, either through free agency or the draft, after spending high draft capital on a player, that's not a good sign. So it all depends. Theo, what's going on, man? What's Wan'Dale going to do this year? So we talked a little bit about him earlier. I think the consensus is we're intrigued by Wan'Dale this year. Sterling Shepard's on the PUP list. Evan Ingram is gone in free agency, so there's slot work available for the Giants. Kadarius Toney is probably going to operate as the wide receiver 1. And Moon mentions, what about trying to get him for Jahan? Yeah, you could try that. I don't know how Toney's intriguing, but like he had a very weird season last year. He had a kind of a weird start to the offseason this year, where he wasn't available during OTAs. Apparently the vibes have been good recently in training camp. Tony's been doing all right in training camp so far. So at least the vibes have been a little bit more positive. You could try that. The thing with Toney is he only had one good season. I know he's got the 1st round right now. He's got the 1st round draft capital, but when the Giants instantly made that pick, they kind of were getting trashed for it by the experts, right? So if you want to do that, that's fine. I mean, I like Jahan Dotson. I'm very intrigued by his prospects, but I think we got to wait a couple, maybe a year or two for Jahan. Tony is listed as the Giants wide receiver 1, not Kenny Golladay. So there is something to be said for that. You might have to give up a draft pick though if you're trying to get Jahan. Like if you're trying to do Jahan for Kadarius, you might have to be the one that gives up a draft pick. So depends on what you want. I'm a little less in. I don't know. I'm not sure about Tony. I mean, the draft capital is there. The opportunity is there. It's a similar situation in Carolina with Terrace Marshall. Like the quarterback is like meh, but we're interested in Brian Daboll as an offensive mind. The Giants should be better on offense this year. They get Daniel Jones back from the neck injury, which apparently there's no concern about long-term effects with that, which is always something that has to be considered with a neck injury. But apparently Daniel Jones is okay, which obviously is good. You know, no matter who you root for or whatever, you obviously want good health for everybody. But it won't be Mike Glennon or Jake from State Farm throwing the ball this year for the Giants. So that's good for Kadarius. I'm not as enthused about it, but if you're someone who's interested in Tony, then go for it. Again, it's like every circumstance is different, right? When Tony was drafted in the first round, a lot of people were raising eyebrows at that pick. That's all. I think he was more like he felt more like he was like a second round pick or a day 2 pick than a first round pick. But the Giants liked him, so obviously they're going to involve him as much as they can. But he only fired in 1 game last year. Again, rookies don't always fire, even with high draft capital. So maybe this year he turns it on. And he did go to Florida. Again, I did mention, like, sometimes look at the program. LSU has been a little bit more successful than Florida over the past couple of years, but still an SEC program. They're going to attract strong talent. And Tony was super dynamic at Florida too. Probably take handoffs. He's like a Swiss Army knife type of player. So it's not a bad idea. He does, to be fair to Tony, he fits the mold of what we've been talking about over these past 10, 15 minutes, to be fair. But as far as Wan'Dale, Theo, yeah, we were interested in Wan'Dale. Sterling Shepard he's on the PUP list. Hasn't been able to stay healthy. By the look of the depth chart, at least on Sleeper, it looks like Wan'Dale has already passed to the likes of like Darius Slayton. So I would think if Shepard's struggling to stay on the field because he did tear his Achilles last year, and that's a rough injury. Wan'Dale's got a shot to see time, like it's a good amount of a role in 3 receiver sets. Because I think Kenny Golladay is going to operate, as the other starting wide receiver. They paid him so much money in free agency. It's too early for the team to pull the plug on Kenny Golladay as an every down player with the money that they gave him. And Kenny Golladay, had a couple of really good seasons in Detroit, or at least one really good season, maybe another like decent season. But Golladay we've seen Golladay do it before. Totally different situation. Obviously, Matthew Stafford is way better than Daniel Jones, but he got paid. The Giants are going to want to continue to try to use him. But there's slot work available for Wan'Dale. And was it New Jerusalem, if he's still here, was saying that they were trying him out in the backfield today. So, if they're gonna try some end around, some jet sweeps with a guy like that, I know he's only 5'8", but there's some definite intrigue with a guy like Wan'Dale. So yeah, and with the second round draft capital, he should have a role. He should have a role this season. And the Giants offense should be better than they have over the past couple of years. Brian Daboll should be a better offensive coach than what Joe Judge and Pat Shurmur have brought to the table for the Giants over the past couple of seasons. So yeah, ADP of 190 on Underdog Fantasy. There's no risk. No risk whatsoever. And then you ask about Ken Walker. This is the last question that I see in the chat right now. So I am going to start winding this down. Feel free to throw any last-minute thoughts or questions in the chat. Happy to take them before we wrap things up. But as always, appreciate you guys coming in and hanging out. Fun opportunity and time to talk with you guys as always. And again, one more plug for the Discord. Happy to keep that conversation going. If anybody has any other thoughts or questions that come up later, or you'll want to talk about later, you don't have to be a member. That's an evergreen invite. Anyone's free to join, except for these damn sex bots that keep joining this chat, although they've been quiet over the past hour. So let's keep it that way as we wind this down. They're not invited to the Discord, but you guys are if you're not in there already. We've got a fun community that's been built up in there. We can keep the conversation going over there. Invites open to anybody, except for the bots. But as far as Kenneth Walker after Chris Carson retired, so I like Kenneth Walker. And again, the great Graham Barfield, who works for Fantasy Points, thinks that he's going to supplant Rashad Penny this year. I just based off of how the Seahawks have operated under Pete Carroll, I know they traded, or did they trade up the Seahawks into the second round? They drafted him somewhat high in the second round. I can't remember if they traded up or if it was just the pick. It just happened naturally, but they took him in the second round. But the last time they took a running back high wasn't too long ago. It's the current incumbent, Rashad Penny. Chris Carson and his 7th round draft capital held off Rashad Penny for pretty much his entire rookie season. Penny didn't see the field much. He battled some injuries, but as a first-round pick, Carson remained the starter. I think that's going to happen again this year to Ken Walker. I think Rashad Penny remains the starter. I think he's going to get most of the work. Penny was on a heater to end the season last year, so he's riding some momentum from last year. I think the Seahawks continue to ride that wave with Rashad Penny. They're going to give him one last extended look to see if they want to re-up with him after this coming season. I am a little leery about drafting Walker this year for redraft. He's a fine investment for Dynasty. If you have a top 4 or 5 pick, even top 3 or 4 pick, just because the running back depth is a little thin this year in rookie drafts. I'm fine with taking Walker in top 5 of drafts, even in Superflex. This is a weak quarterback class. I'm not taking Kenny Pickett over him. I'm fine with Walker in the top 5, even in Superflex leagues for Dynasty. But for redraft, I'm not super enthusiastic about Walker this year. If I am going to commit to a Seahawks running back, I think I prefer Penny. We can only go off their track record. And it has been to continue to give the majority of the work to the veteran or the incumbent. So I think Penny is the guy I'd rather have in redraft this year. Their ADPs are pretty close, so you could go either way on it. And Walker is a little cheaper, not significantly. He's a little cheaper than Penny, but I think this is a scenario based off of what we've seen from Pete Carroll where I'll lean the veteran, especially since Penny had a really strong finish to the 2021 season. So Walker long-term should be fine. 2022 season, I'm not, I respect Graham Barfield and his projections and the models that he puts together, and he likes Ken Walker as soon as this year. I think he's investing in Ken Walker this year. So, he's a guy that's been doing this a lot longer than I have, and I can only hope to model my ability to analyze situations the way Graham does. But I am not on the same page with him on this one. I think I do prefer Penny over Walker for at least this season. But for Dynasty, Walker's up for in 2022 rookie leagues still needs to be drafted in the top 5. Maybe something like, Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave. I feel like I'm forgetting a rookie wide receiver. I know Jamison Williams and Treylon Burks. Their stock's a little down right now. But Walker's right in that mix. So maybe like 4, 5, 6, somewhere around there. Any tight end in New Orleans worth picking up? Yeah, I mean, Taysom Hill is an intriguing, stash and hope, right? Because he's taking all his snaps at tight end this year, and if Jameis goes down, I guess he could, then it's much more likely that he gets used the way that Sean Payton used him at the very least, where he's kind of that change of pace quarterback where he comes in and he'll run for first downs and he can pick up rushing production and he'll line up all over the formation. Is an intriguing late round flyer. I haven't given up on Adam Troutman personally. I think we were a little, we were maybe the community was like a year too early on Troutman last year. Is he still only like 24 years old? Tight ends take time to he's 25. That's all right. He's still young. Tight ends don't fire right away. I mean, you want to talk, we were talking a little earlier about like how long do we wait on rookie wide receivers? You wait even long or young wide receivers. You wait even a little bit longer on young tight ends. It's just a difficult position to learn and play. Troutman saw a huge snap share last year as well. He didn't come off the field. It didn't result in fantasy production, but the first step is obviously being on the field. Troutman was on the field last year. I have not given up on Adam Troutman, who is the more traditional tight end to Taysom Hill, and a guy who saw almost a 100% snap share, as close as you can get. He had a huge snap share last year, Troutman did. So if he mixes a little bit more into the passing game this year, I think I would say don't forget about him. Taysom Hill obviously offers that Swiss Army knife upside because he can play he can operate. He can take snaps at quarterback. I don't know if I'll say he can play quarterback like as from at an NFL level on a week by week basis, but we've seen him be the team's starting quarterback before in spot starts due to injury. So the Swiss Army knife upside is intriguing, and I would just say don't forget about Adam Troutman, the traditional tight end who played pretty much every snap last year, didn't get involved in the passing game, but this offense should be better. And with another year under his belt, still only 25 years old, probably still learning the position, I would be willing to bet we haven't seen or heard the last of Adam Troutman. Something to think about. And yeah, I mean, I don't want to play Trevor Siemian or Ian Book. I know Ian Book's only a second-year player, but I'm not sure he has potential in this league as anything more than a career backup at best. Maybe he develops into a team's number 2 option. Feels like a number 3 option might be more likely, except for on like bad teams with thin quarterback depth charts, kind of like what Atlanta's facing this year. Maybe Carolina will go out and trade a 6th-round pick for him in 2 years from now. I'm kidding. Hopefully not. Hopefully, for God's sake, for DJ Moore's sake and Christian McCaffrey's sake, they need to get they need to stop like dilly-dallying and get a real freaking quarterback. Because Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold are not the long-term answer. If they keep flipping middling picks for middling quarterbacks, they're going to stay right where they are at the bottom of the NFC South. Anyway, separate conversation about Carolina. But yeah, Taysom could fill in, and if he's the starting quarterback, he's, you can naturally hope for 15 fantasy points. It might be gross. He might throw for 75 yards, but he'll run for 50 and a touchdown. Maybe catches a ball here and there on some trick plays since he's lining up as a tight end. So yeah, either guy is fine as like a late round, like a last pick flyer. Hill offers the interesting upside at being able to play a quarterback at the tight end position, but I would say just don't sleep on Adam Troutman. I don't think we've seen the last of him. And then waiver wire sleepers. Let me take a look at the list of names that I got here on Underdog. This'll kind of help me out as far as like this, just being able to actually visualize some of the names. Like waiver wire. KJ Osborne. I don't know if he'll probably get drafted even in shallow redraft leagues. I think the Vikings offense is going to be very intriguing this year. I really like that they're moving forward with like an 11. They're going to run more 11 personnel. I like Osborne. So I'll say him. He's probably going to he's going to get drafted even in 10 and 12 team redraft leagues, but I like him. Van Jefferson's got an ADP of like 150. He was a wide receiver 3 last year. Van was, and he's being drafted like a wide receiver 6. So Van Jefferson, he's going to be a waiver wire pickup in shallow redraft leagues. Kenny Gainwell had like 7 touchdowns last year. Still has an ADP of like 160. Here's a couple wide receivers for you, Moon. Nico Collins. Obviously, best wishes to John Mechie. Got diagnosed with what has been reported as a very treatable, thankfully very treatable cancer diagnosis, but it is a form of leukemia. Saying that you hate to hear that doesn't do it justice. Just like you hope for a 100%, 1,000,000% recovery for John Mechie, whether it's football or otherwise. But from a availability perspective, Nico Collins is a slam dunk all-year starter for the Houston Texans, who should be bad and should be throwing a ton. That defense is probably going to stink for one more year. The Texans are going to be throwing the ball. Nico Collins, I would say, is an interesting waiver wire flyer this year. And right below him with an ADP of 164 is Marvin Jones, who is a rock-solid wide receiver 3 at this point on a Jags offense that should be way better this year. Maybe not way better, but there's nowhere to go but up after the fiasco that they suffered last year. Marvin Jones had 143 half PPR fantasy points last year, 73 catches, 800 yards, 4 touchdowns. He could do that again this year, maybe with a couple more scores. Marvin Jones, man, his ADP is way too low. Julio's ADP is probably going to come up at this point now that he's landed in Tampa Bay. So I don't know if he's a waiver wire guy anymore. Somebody in your league is probably going to take a chance on him. Some deep running backs. I like Jamal Williams as a backup to DeAndre Swift. I think this Lions offense is going to move the ball with some decent success. They got a great offensive line. The Lions defense is probably going to stink for one more year, but I think this Lions offense is going to have some scoring opportunities. Look at the guys they have when they're healthy. DeAndre Swift, TJ Hawkinson, Amon-Ra St. Brown. I don't know if Jameson Williams is going to play this year. I hope he does. But he suffered a torn ACL in January. He might, by the time he's healthy, Detroit might be out of the playoff race. And then it's like, do we rush back our first round pick? Jamal Williams could catch some passes out of that backfield this year. Marlon Mack, he's got an ADP of like 170. I think he's going to be the starter for Houston this year. And his ADP is cheaper than Dameon Pierce's. So Marlon Mack is interesting. Paris Campbell is another guy. Moon. ADP of 180. Sounds like he's connecting with Matt Ryan. Should be a starter for that Colts offense. He just hasn't been able to stay healthy. If he can stay healthy, if Paris Campbell can stay on the field, maybe he's not like a wide receiver 2, but he smashes his ADP of 180. I wouldn't be surprised if he's like 30 or 35 picks more expensive next year. Paris Campbell. All he's got to do is stay healthy. So those are some names. I'll mention Curtis Samuel, Wan'Dale Robinson. We talked a little bit about those guys today. Those guys are also like guys to keep an eye on. I think Curtis Samuel has got a little bit more of an every down role opportunity for Washington. So those are some deep stashes. And all right, last name. This time for real. Up in Buffalo, baby, Isaiah McKenzie. I think Jamison Crowder is this team's wide receiver 4. John would disagree with me, who is a Bills fan. So if you want to, consider the guy who's a little bit more plugged into his own team, I can respect that. But I think Isaiah McKenzie is a real interesting name. It sounds like he's doing really well in training camp. I think Jamison Crowder is going to have to fight to take Isaiah McKenzie's job as the wide receiver 3, and I think McKenzie's going to hold it down. So those are some names. As far as some guys to some waiver wire targets for this year. Taxi squad guys, man, you could like Tyler Batty, Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens backfield situation is kind of unsettled with the status of J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. Tyler Batty's an interesting guy. Pierre Strong. Like I mentioned earlier in the stream, I think Damian Harris walks next year. I think it's going to be Ramondre Stevenson, and then whoever steps up. Pierre Strong's got a shot. I'm intrigued by Snoop Connor down in Jacksonville. Travis Etienne is going to be the dude there. James Robinson, the vibes have been good as far as his return from an Achilles injury, but availability doesn't mean effectiveness. It's going to be hard for for James Robinson, I would think, to be his normal effective self that we've seen over the past couple of years. Snoop Connor might have a shot there. And then some tight ends. Jelani Woods. I'll throw some tight ends for you, Moon. Jelani Woods, high RAS score. We were really intrigued by him as a prospect. And Daniel Bellinger as well on the Giants. It might take a couple of years, but the only guy ahead of him on the depth chart is Ricky Seals-Jones. So hopefully that helps. Just some names to throw out there. Yeah, all right, Scott, you're on the right path, man. A lot of Van, a lot of McKenzie on your best ball teams. I love those guys for depth this year. Van Jefferson's ADP is way too low, and officially Isaiah McKenzie's is too. Getting him at with your last pick, that feels like a layup at this point. The vibes have been really good. Thea, when should you flip Juju? You could try now. I'm a little worried about Juju. I was a little at the start of the offseason, I was like, okay, Juju gets to link up with Patrick Mahomes, 5th round redraft ADP. That's not so bad. But his efficiency and his his effectiveness has been they've gone down every season. I don't know. Juju feels like an enigma. I'm not sure if I at first earlier in the offseason, I was intrigued by him. Now I'm just like, I don't know. Try now. But if you want to hold out and try to get a first for him, then you probably need to wait for the season to start and you hope he plays well. That's when you're going to, if you want to try to squeeze a first round pick out of somebody for Juju, you're going to have to wait for the season to start. If you're okay settling for a second round pick, maybe like a little bit of additional capital, maybe like a couple of thirds or something, you could try to do that now. But if you want to get a first round pick, you're probably going to have to wait until the season starts and he does well, which he could. He's catching passes from Patrick Mahomes. That's much better than end of your career Ben Roethlisberger. But Juju is weird, man. I don't know. His efficiency has gone down every year. And I know he picked up a season-ending injury a couple years ago, but even the past couple years, that was last year. That was last year. But the 2 years ago, even when he was healthy, like Claypool's and Deontay's numbers with a broken Ben Roethlisberger were just fine. Juju's they were terrible. I think his end of season stats were fine. Maybe like 800, 900 yards, 7 touchdowns, but it was like pulling teeth getting there. On a per game basis, he was not good. Had a couple splash weeks, but was mostly an unusable fantasy asset for most of that season. And Deontay and Claypool were both fine. So, if you want to squeeze a first out of somebody, it's like a hope and pray situation. You're hoping he goes into the season and plays well, catching passes from Mahomes. So if that's the case, then you got to wait. But if he has a strong week 1, do it then. If Juju has a good week 1, I would say swallow your hopes for like a strong season. And if you want a first round pick, do it then. I don't know, 6 catches, 80 yards, touchdown from Juju week 1. That's when you flip him for a first round pick. But if you want to try to recoup, if you would settle recouping the second round pick now and maybe a couple of third round picks, you could try for that now. But you're not going to get a first round pick now. Not until the season starts. So I would wait. If you're ultimately thinking, yeah, I can do that or I can get that, I would wait. But hopefully that helps. I think that's going to do it for me today, guys. We have reached the end of the chat. I don't see any other comments or questions in here at this time. So I am going to shut this down one final time. If you have any other questions or thoughts that come up, you can absolutely hit me up in the Discord. If you're not in the Discord already, it is the second link in the description of this live stream. You do not have to be a member of this channel to join. And we can keep the conversation going over there. I'll respond to any messages or questions as fast as I can or as soon as I see it. And if anybody else gets to it first, we got an awesome community in there that love to keep the conversation going and love talking shop. But for now, that does it for me. Scott, appreciate it. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks everybody for your comments, everybody for your questions. There were some people in here that I'm seeing for the first time. Thank you guys for coming in. Hope this was enjoyable. Hope it was fun. And we hope to see you again soon. We will be back Tuesday, same time, same place. John will be back. So we will have our full operation back next Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern. Everybody have an awesome weekend. Everybody stay safe, stay healthy, have fun. And we'll see you next week. Thanks, everybody.